turning on cue. See how they're eating you up now. Every little detail, beautiful you. I don't know why they never noticed what I knew, but everywhere you go now, everybody's looking at you. Everything you do now, everybody's looking at you. People up the back now, everybody's looking at you. People up the front now, everybody's looking at you. People everywhere now, everybody's looking at you. People up the back now, everybody's looking at you. People up the front now, everybody's looking at you. People everywhere now, everybody's looking at you. Everybody's looking at you. Right now, I got this beat in my head. Right now, I want to dive into this world. Let it out for the crowd, let it out, yeah, be proud. Right now, this is a real good atmosphere. Right now, superficialities are here. No excuse, no rules, no one to judge. Just give a fuck. The time has come to lose control. Don't be so shy, just let it flow. We are the masters of our own world, of our own world. We pray for fire in the sky. We show that this light is our light. We stick together, together, together. We're alright. The time has come to lose control. Don't be so shy, just let it flow. We are the masters of our own world, of our own world. Well, they drink really expensive champagne on their private jet plane. All we need is a cheap bottle of wine and a cigarette to have a good time. A freedom, conviction, and no restriction. There's no other place to die than here with us tonight. The time has come to lose control. Don't be so shy, just let it flow. We are the masters of our own world. We pray for fire in the sky. We show that this light is our light. We stick together, together, together. We're alright. The time has come to lose control. Don't be so shy, just let it flow. We are the masters of our own world, of our own world.
赤信号だとしてももう止まらない。理解不能のスピード100倍速い。地横なんて哀れよね。ねえ聞いてよ now。 負けの準備でもしておきな Come try me get you down 悩んでもやめないわ No more 苦い思い消えてよこの街に呼ばれるサイニンフェクチャー全力で追い越してよさ Driving モール始めよう もう安全な近道なんての完全にアウトだからあんたの後悔楽しみだわすげた気づいてよマジでベイビー一番でノックアウトするわ You better be listening 地横なんて哀れよねねえ聞いてよな負けの準備でもしておきな Come try me yet when you were down 悩んでもやめないわ No more 苦い思い消えてよこの街に呼ばれるサイニンフェクチャー全力で追い越してよさ Dreaming の始めよう
Country song You and me going out tonight Let's turn the radio on You got your skirt on tight and your legs on long Let's lay some whiskey down We'll dance all night then get it on To another country song Tonight, let's turn the radio on.
You got your skirt on tight and your legs on long. Let's lay some whiskey down. We'll dance all night, then get it on to another country song. You and me going out tonight. Let's turn the radio on. You got your skirt on tight and your legs on long. Let's lay some whiskey down. We'll dance all night, then get it on to another country song.
I saw you sitting in the moonlight, tripping, pain runs through your heart. Oh, we were skinny dipping, slowly sipping, then we fell apart. I'm just trying to catch a break from your love, oh, yeah, hey. Cause I need to find a new life, no love, oh. I can't lie, I've been thinking about us, but you, yeah. Tell me everything's gonna be alright. Tell me that you're never gonna need spotlight. Just say how you feeling, I don't wanna waste time. I saw you sitting in the moonlight, tripping, pain runs through your heart. Oh, we were skinny dipping, slowly sipping, then we fell apart. I'm just trying to catch a break from your love, oh, yeah, hey. Cause I need to find a new life, no love, oh. I can't lie, I've been thinking about us, but you know better than anybody around me, yeah, you know. I think we both need a break from this thing called love. All love ain't the thing to question, it's all love. I got plenty problems and no shoulder. Last night on the tour, ain't no tour, but I saw you sitting in the moonlight, tripping, pain runs through your heart. Oh, we were skinny dipping, slowly sipping, then we fell apart. I'm just trying to catch a break from your love, oh, yeah. Cause I need to find a new life, no love, oh. I can't lie, I've been thinking about us.
Putting out the fires, my head calls me a liar. Sick of breathing in your smoke. Leave a little longer, embrace a little harder. Yeah, every time we're not wrong, it's like we're walking on water. Oh, too good to last long. Putting out the fires and looking for a miracle. It's like we're walking on water. It's like we're walking on water.
DJ, turn the music up, put the lights down low. All the worries we had, we just let them go. Wasn't looking for love, I was happy alone. When you put your arms around me, how was I to know? You got me feeling things I never felt before. We get lost in the music on the dance floor. If I leave you now, I'll leave you wanting more. If I leave you now, I'll leave you wanting more. I never wanted it, now I can't get enough. You turn me on, how could I turn you down? I never wanted it, now I can't get enough. You got me spinning around, spinning
I think I'll sleep till it's over. I think I'll sleep till it's over. I think I'll sleep till it's over. Broken letters, broken pain, breathing every now and then. Getting hurt but never learn. I'm falling short of hope again. I need a shock to bring me round, to pull my head from underground. I'm calling out but there's no sound. How many times can we make up? How many years will this take up? And never is as long as forever. When it's love but it's over. I've woken up in the headlights, sticking from the clouds in mid-flight. Never is as long as forever. I think I'll sleep till it's over. 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 Stone days never end. Words I knew you couldn't say. We pretend we're more than this. Make believe that it's okay. I need a shock to bring me round, to pull my head from underground. I'm calling out but there's no sound. How many times can we make up? How many years will this take up? And never is as long as forever. When it's love but it's over. I've woken up in the headlights, sticking from the clouds in mid-flight. Never is as long as forever. I think I'll sleep till it's over. 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 I think I'll sleep till it's over.
Oh, won't you break me up? Oh, won't you break me up? feels like I just can't get past me. Oh, 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 oh. Won't you break me up? You're the chain, you're the lock. Won't you hold me down? You're the key to the door. Won't you break me out for my freedom? For my freedom. You're the chain, you're the lock. Won't you hold me down? You're the key to the door. Won't you break me out for my freedom? For my freedom. Won't you break me out? Oh, won't you break me out? Oh, won't you break me out? Oh, won't you break me out? Break me out. Break me out. Oh, won't you break me out? Oh, won't you break me out? Oh, won't you break me out? Break me out. Break me out. You're the chain, you're the lock. Won't you hold me down? You're the key to the door. Won't you break me out for my freedom? For my freedom. You're the chain, you're the lock. Won't you hold me down? You're the key to the door. Won't you break me out for my freedom? For my freedom. Oh, won't you break me out? Wanna wake up in my bedroom with you right next to me, holding my hand. Something I could get used to, 'cause you're by my side. When city lights blur the evening, hollow skies grab my feelings, and shooting stars have no meaning. I know, I wanna be where you are forever and ever. I wanna be where you are forever and ever. I wanna be where you are. Be where you are. There's nothing like this feeling. Could look at you for hours, don't mind me. Didn't know how much I needed to have you by my side. When city lights blur the evening, hollow skies grab my feelings, and shooting stars have no meaning. I know, I wanna be where you are forever and ever. I wanna be where you are forever and ever. I wanna be where you are. Be where you are. When city lights blur the evening, hollow skies grab my feelings, and shooting stars have no meaning. I know, I wanna be where you are forever and ever. I wanna be where you are forever and ever. I wanna be where you are. Be where you are. I wanna be where you are.
outside your door. You'll find love where you don't know. You know that if you ever tried your last, call out on me if the old wind broke your mind. Set out to sea if you've fallen down. You know that I'm here, so you come on home to me. There you pick up all your bags, lay down your toys. Oh, my son, stay curious, my boy.
身も蓋もないわねマジでメール既読無視でもてめトラブルならすぐ相談してよだなんて細い指先が僕さす Please come this way ピンヒールで突き刺す血の味が欲しいまで純粋だと思ったバカね赤いリップで踊るネオンライトがきらめく騙されたなんてめめしいやつね通報するならすれば罪深いの私よこの世のクズどもよかも民がひれ伏す農場の世界へようこそ落とし穴に落ちたあなた Please come this way ピールで突き刺す血の味が欲しい前に純粋だと思ったバカね赤いリップで踊るネオンライトがきらめく騙されたなんてめめしいやつね通報するならすれば罪深いの私よこの世のクズどもよかも
Stop playing with my heart right now. Girl, I need you in my life right now. Though I'm all tied up, need your love right now. Stop playing with my heart right now. Girl, I need you in my life right now. Though I'm all tied up, need your love right now. No, I'm balling out, yeah. But my heart plays loud, yeah. And I'm all freaked out, cause I got nothing to say to you. But will I be down, yeah, when you come around, yeah. So let's get right down, cause we ain't got much time. And every time you hold me, I think about the times that I was lonely. Keep reminiscing about how you the only, how you the only one that makes me wanna look into your eyes and say, stop playing with my heart right now. Girl, I need you you in my life right now. Though I'm all tied up, need your love right now. Stop playing with my heart right now. Girl, I need you in my life right now. Though I'm all tied up, need your love right now. Yeah, we could take time to work things out, oh, yeah. But I want you in my life so we could have each other, yeah. I know it seems hard to shine, but you're a million stars at all the same time, yeah. And you know I really mean it. And every time you hold me, I think about the times that I was lonely. Keep reminiscing about how you the only one that makes me wanna look into your eyes and say, stop playing with my heart right now. Girl, I need you in my life right now. Though I'm all tied up, need your love right now. Stop playing with my heart right now. Girl, I need you in my life right now. Though I'm all tied up, need your love right now.
Different energies I bring, only sickness I fling. Bad like Gustavo Fring, can't try not a ting. Flyboy, I got the wings, and they can't keep up with me, dog. That's why all that I bring is wins. And they wanna hold me back, never doubt I'm a king. When they grab Mike and a chap on the ting, I don't wanna hear no talk from jokers. Say you got waves, I split that like Moses. The way that I catch it is flawless, it's awkward, cause they can't do it when they talk up. I don't wanna hear that ever. Stay on the ground like Cellar, they know man shell off. Feel man trying to get ahead of me. They should've known they ain't really got the energy. I got the energy. Run laps and laps round them, they ain't even got no energy. So that means no power, they don't wanna be my enemy. That might end up in a penalty. I got a different energy, no matter what I encounter. No, I got the energy. Run laps and laps round them, they ain't even got no energy. So that means no power, they don't wanna be my enemy. That might end up in a penalty. I got a different energy, no matter what I encounter. No, I got the energies. I got the energies. I got the energy. Run laps and laps round them, they ain't even got no energy. So that means no power, they don't wanna be my enemy. That might end up in a penalty. I got a different energy, no matter what I encounter. No, I got the energy. Run laps and laps round them, they ain't even got no energy. So that means no power, they don't wanna be my enemy. That might end up in a penalty. I got a different energy, no matter what I encounter. No, I got the energy. They ain't even got no energy. They don't wanna be my enemy. I got a different energy. I got a different energy.
Surfing on a
big boys that run around the whole damn town just showing off the toys. Like do-si-do, I'm ready to go. Been a damn long week, it's time for the show. Call my girls like, ooh, don't you know? I'm with my girls, yeah, my girls. We've been working all day. It's time to dance the night away. I'm with my girls, yeah, my girls. We got records to play, so come let's dance the night away. Come on, like do-si-do, we ready to go. Sneaker fresh for the halftime show. That's right, girls, we dropping it low. Like do-si-do, we ready to go. Sneaker fresh for the halftime show. That's right, girls, we dropping it low. I don't really care about the fortune or the fame. Keep rolling on and holding on. Don't need that crown to reign. Push through all the pressures, just keep grinding 9 to 5. Yeah, I'm working hard, we playing hard. Goddamn, I feel alive. Like do-si-do, I'm ready to go. Been a damn long week, it's time for the show. Call my girls like, ooh, don't you know? I'm with my girls, yeah, my girls. We've been working all day. It's time to dance the night away. I'm with my girls, yeah, my girls. We got records to play, so come let's dance the night away. Like do-si-do, we ready to go. Sneaker fresh for the halftime show. That's right, girls, we dropping it low. Like do-si-do, we ready to go. Sneaker fresh for the halftime show. That's right, girls, we dropping it low. Man, we're taking over, yeah, we're running the world. If we stick together, there's no stopping us, girl. Man, we're taking over, yeah, we're running the world. Are we with my girls? Yeah, my girls. We've been working all day. It's time to dance the night away. I'm with my girls, yeah, my girls. We got records to play, so come let's dance the night away. Like do-si-do, we ready to go. Sneaker fresh for the halftime show. That's right, girls, we dropping it low. Like do-si-do, we ready to go. Sneaker fresh for the halftime show. That's right, girls, we dropping it low.
Excuse me, please, but I'm standing. Left on right, we're trapped in the middle. Excuse me, please, but I'm crying. Catch your breath before you get old. I couldn't stay for the battle. I couldn't cross in the middle. But we are far too much too young. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I couldn't stay for the battle. I couldn't cross in the middle. I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my mind. Excuse me, please, but I'm standing. Left on right, we're trapped in the middle.
changed so fast. Looking straight ahead, I don't think of the past. You've changed everything. It's like bright lights and a starry sky. We're gonna feel that way most every night. Sunlight on a summer day. We're gonna laugh and dance all the rain away. Sing a new melody. It's full of love. It's beautiful and free. 'Cause you belong, you belong, you belong to me. Birds fly, fill the trees like it's always spring. White clouds high above, I know just what I mean. Your smile, this love are an endless road. And I'll walk, I'll run, anywhere it goes. You've changed everything. It's like bright lights and a starry sky. We're gonna feel that way most every night. Sunlight on a summer day. We're gonna laugh and dance all the rain away. Sing a new melody. It's full of love. It's beautiful and free. 'Cause you belong, you belong, you belong to me.
Tell me what you're dreaming of, waiting for your fate to come. There goes another day of sacrifice. Are you never gonna try to fail? Never gonna stop to give in? Never gonna try to reach up for the stars? You gotta fight with all of your life. For the doubt takes over your name. You gotta hit that warning light. Are you done with the waiting on right? Oh, right. You better run now, run before you hit the end of your line.
gonna stop to fail, and don't you ever stop to give in. Never stop reaching for the stars. So what you waiting on? Get up, take back control. Ain't no point sitting wasting all the rest of your life. So what you hoping for? That the luck comes to your door. Ain't no point sitting wasting away the rest of your time. Oh, no, no, no. They're gonna know my name. Well, there's a will, there's a way. They're gonna know my name. I'm gonna stake my claim. They're gonna know my, they're gonna know my, they're gonna know my name. Head down, I'm almost fading. I walk on with tired feet. No time for hesitating. The world's coming after me. But I got no time to be bitter. No doubt I will succeed. I ain't got no faith in you. There's only one thing I believe. They're gonna know my name. Well, there's a will, there's a way. They're gonna know my name. I'm gonna stake my claim.
just as boring as it has ever been. But I will still adore you. It's what you mean to me. Do you want me around? Is it all just too late now? Do you want me around? Is it all just too late now? I'm here waiting for you. I'm lay across our bed. I'm still spinning out all your words in my head. I don't wanna fight tonight. 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 I don't wanna fight.
It's in my blood to lift it up and hang my halo on a miracle. And you don't see the scars in me. I defeated the demons of recovery. Every inch I was wrestling in the rubble. Never gave up, I weathered every trouble. I'm a hero, I'm dying in my life.
家人们谁懂啊？梦断人川，心碎巴黎，三胜一地全员出局啊！阿南，我是一整个无语住了。欢迎来到本赛季最后的观赛指南。如今季后赛4强已定，胜者组与败者组决赛也将在本周末打响。4支战队将向春季赛冠军发起冲击，他们分别是常规赛前2名的 JDG 与 EDG， 以及遇强则强、实力不详的 BLG 与 OMG。首先是周6的败者组对决，在银河战舰报废重组之后 ，BLG 这个赛季出人意料的6暗花名，叔叔我呀，终于买对一回。面对 RNG 时，角色互换的病让呼吸哥知道了什么叫残忍。而在与 WBG 的对决中 ，BLG 更是火力全开，逼出巴黎人祖传的3字绝招，并在上路与 The Shy 的对线丝毫不落下风，谁还不是个ET4呢？OMG 的晋级之路同样精彩，面对状态回暖的 TES， 鏖战5局，最终还是绽放出星球之光。被罚的不一定是季汉，也可能是孟获。2句话总结这个 BO5： 天雷地火看山鸡，第6就该赢第7，5场3局 MVP， 什么叫做最佳新秀啊？只可惜，由于 OMG 与 BLG 双落入败者组，这2支让人惊喜的全华班势必有一支无缘 MSI。没关系，好好调整，哥几个等你回来。周日的胜者组对决则是来自 JDG 与 EDG。JDG 在遭遇 BLG 时一度被逼入绝境，谁能想到睡眠质量得到保障的高子哥竟然恐怖如斯。好在决胜局线上劣势的369在团战端打出了对位差距。这里作为过来人的9哥不得不提醒你一句，太集中在对线上了，兄弟。JDG 的对手则是这个赛季表现超出期待的 EDG。当仁川人和巴黎人纷纷被淘汰，冰岛人还在坚持，冰岛人还在输出，冰岛人 still alive。面对势头正劲的 OMG， 也能在失去1分后连赢3局。至于这一笑究竟能不能笑到伦敦，让我们拭目以待。总而言之，虽然都说 LPL 实力断崖式下跌，但现如今4强3支全华班这么至真，真是抱歉。如果你也可以像我一样，无论如何都支持 LPL， 那我觉得这件事情太酷了。
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LPL for our upper bracket finals. My name is Munchballs. I'm joined by Nymera for what should be an absolute barn burner. It's JDG up against EDG, and Nymera, to quote you, the super team up against the team that has become super.
Tracking both of these teams through spring has been a very different story for both of them. I think everyone could have looked at the JDG roster and said, okay, this team is destined for greatness. A lot of other super teams from the split haven't done the same. Top Esports fell apart. Weibo sadly didn't make it even into the double elimination stage of the LPL playoffs in this spring. You look over to EDG, they're a team where on paper we thought, hey, they'll be good. But what's happened with them, parting ways with so many of their world's winning roster? What's happening with all of these new pieces coming in? It felt like there was some distance to make up for them, but they have more than done that.
And it's a testament to EDG's scouting staff, right? Where you've got Ala and Fofo, who, if at the start of 2022 they'd been picked up, you'd be like, oh, okay, big pickups.
Pretty good.
The start of 2023, it didn't quite feel the same. But they've managed to show that there was potential there underneath the surface. Recency is not everything. Looking at our bracket, though, you can see we are on our 10th series of playoffs. JDG versus EDG, our upper bracket final. The loser of that will go on to face BLG in their elimination match, and then we move to our finals. Honestly, I think it's exceptionally hard to call who's going to make it at this point. Really, between JDG and EDG, especially with JDG's most recent series being so wacky.
Suspects, yeah. There were some weaknesses there.
But there was also insane strength there, and it's kind of, I feel like it was all on the mojo. And that's a dangerous place to be.
There's some logic to that. As we see EDG coming out onto the stage, their opponents for today, but what they will have to do is try and make JDG a little bit uncomfortable, particularly in that early game and mid game, because as you're saying, the mojo, the term that you like to bring up, that comes about really into the late game for JDG when all else fails, and that's what happened against BLG at the death of Game 5. There was a very difficult situation where BLG had a Camille Galio hyper-engaged comp, and they were playing with a Jinx backline who had no appeal for them, and they somehow managed to out-teamfight that. It took a couple of mistakes, but once they got to that late game, JDG was so ironclad in their ability to play that out. EDG will have to make sure that they don't give JDG that glimpse of a weakness for them to exploit.
See, we mentioned Ala and Fofo coming into this, and I remember back in 2021, players were on RA on LNG. That was the year where LNG did make it to Worlds through the regional finals. It was actually Ala that denied Fofo Worlds, and once again now EDG, or these two players, trying to make it to an international tournament. MSI on the line here. Up against JDG though, and this is a squad that, I think everyone coming into this year was looking at JDG as one of, if not the strongest roster. This is just unparalleled in terms of raw star power. And the question, though, is what happens if they do lose? Because this is a team that have dominated early games. They have dominated lane phases, and they run away when they get control of a game. But when things don't go too peachy in the first 10 minutes, that's when we start to see real weaknesses from JD.
And if we were going to start really putting some of these factors down to kind of a team identity, what I would say about JDG is that they're a team that play through lane incredibly well, but it also hides a significant weakness as well. If they had an Achilles heel, it's the fact that particularly jungle support early macro is not something that JDG are particularly advanced at. It's not where their strengths lie. If you're winning lanes so hard, it allows a player like Kanavi to go into the enemy jungle and invade and fight from an advantage, which means you don't necessarily need everyone on the same page in regards to that macro sense of things. So what that often means is that the conversation coming out of draft, coming into the first 5 to 10 minutes of the game has been, do JDG have winning lane matchups? If they do, good luck. They're very good at playing through that. You're probably going to lose. But if they don't, you do have extra questions about what is our first place team out of the regular season and one of our strongest teams remaining in playoffs, of course.
Yeah. And just to speak to the strength of both of these rosters, not as teams, but also as individuals, is the fact that every single one of the players on the stage today made it into our own group. Every single one of
It's an all-star match, baby.
This is unbelievable. Kind of unparalleled in the LPL right now in terms of just raw talent on the board. And I'm excited to see who will step up because when it comes to like MVP performances as well, it feels like every single player on this server can be given a carry, can step into a carry role, and can take over the game. So we'll see what the draft is going to look like and who these teams lean towards. I mean, Nymera, what do you anticipate from the two teams, like preemptively looking towards them?
Ooh, well, the thing is, when you kind of bring it back to kind of, when you put the nameplates on, normally look for like a star player to have agency or something like that. As you were saying though, each one of these players is in the All-Pro somewhere in there. You've got a load of first place in there as well for between these teams. I mean, EDG have got 2 first All-Pro, a second and then 2 thirds. JDG have 2 first and then 3 on the second team. Very high ranking in the community and kind of expert opinions. So that means it makes it very hard to pin it down to a lane. So you have to look to the meta instead in terms of what's the LPL been playing overall. 2 picks stand out to me. I like to call them the Lightning Duo because they tend to have some similar facets to them. It's Zeri and Kennen. Zeri, as we've seen, Ruler has been probably the best historical Zeri of all time at this point. I suppose the champion's not been out for that long, so it doesn't have as much weight.
It's not that long of a time, but yeah.
Like, wow, the best Vayne of all time. That's been around for forever. But yeah, something like the Zeri is something which has really ruined a lot of these games. It feels like every team has tried to take this champion away, try to have a answer to it, but that's not really been achieved. So now we've got, you know, Ruler who's 8-2 on that pick. You have Leaf who's 12-3 on the other side, so both of them sharing that strength. And then you have this Kennen as well. LPL has been a region which has, it started out in the beginning of spring playing a lot of Jax, and then the Cassante to kind of nullify that, a bit of Gragas as well. And then what happened later into the split was Kennen came up as an answer that Jax couldn't actually answer. You lost in the 1v1 early, you couldn't impact the team fights in the same way, and a lot of LPL players kind of took that flippy matchup and they said, hey, we'll play it into a 1v2. Kennen is very good to play through and is very hard to play against as well. So I expect that to be on the table, and then you're looking at real counters to that. We've seen Sion, we've seen that Gragas as kind of tank matchups. We've seen occasional ranged top laners to try and counter this out as to something like Victor top came out from OMG towards the end of the regular season, but we've not really seen that again. For me, I'm looking at the series to say, are we having people picking the Kennen, picking the Zeri, or do we have some niche counters, maybe in our first few games of this best of 5, to see if they can break these power picks?
Yeah, we'll see if the answers have come on through. You certainly expect, especially on the upper side of the bracket, there's space for innovation when it comes to the draft. There's space to do something a little bit out there, and there are certainly players that would be willing to break the mold on the scoreboard here today. I do want to talk a little bit about results as well, because when we look at recent history for these two organizations, I mean, JDG, Knight, in fact, placing second in both spring and summer playoffs. JDG with the team to beat him in summer when he was on Top Esports, and now joining the dark side, joining JDG, looking to make his 3rd finals in a row. We're into draft though. Annie banned away, the Kennen we talked about banned, the Zeri we talked about banned, and Jace taken off the board as well. So a lot of powerful picks taken away from the solo lanes here. Gragas taken away from 369 as well.
Yeah, so Gragas away from 369. That one is probably going to be on the ban list a fair amount. That one has been just something which it feels like he gets so much value out of regardless of the matchup. On the other side,
watching LCK this morning, you can understand.
Turns out it has a lot of impact, has a lot of builds, and it can really make a lot of your bot laners, your all-star carries, really, really worried. Now, one of those all-star carries has been Fofo, and something like the Jace and the Annie. Those have been his playoffs picks of choice so far. So with those champions off the table, wondering what he goes to next, particularly with something like Azir being taken away as well. The thing with all these top lane bans, though, means that, you know, we're talking about, hey, LPL started on Jax meta, and then we had these innovations. Pretty much all of the champions we've talked about as the Jax answer are currently off the table. 369 will have to find a matchup into this top laner, because we've seen Bin do some pretty disgusting things in the top lane throughout playoffs, for anyone following Billy Gaming's journey. But Ala as well has a chance to put his name up there as one of the very best top laners in the LPL.
Certainly does. Jax locked in. His Fiora banned away again. We saw that banned by OMG in the previous series as well. And with the Rakan locked in, will mean that the Xayah potentially forced to be taken here by Leave to deny that Lovers duo down in the bottom side. Curious whether you go for a support here or a jungler for EDG. Do you value that duo in the bottom side, or do you want to answer this Wukong? Apparently, not even go for the Xayah.
It's fair to say, with all the top lane focus, or rather the solo lane focus with the flexibility, I suppose, we have a lot of the priority junglers being let through. We've seen Vi be paired up with a lot of aggressive jungle mid lane picks as well. It allows you to play stuff like Veigar, like Talia, like Ahri as well. Lots of combos to put together with that. So having that piece of your combo set down as the versatile jungler of Vi does make a lot of sense. You're also going to take away that Xayah as well. Does mean that potentially now JDG get a chance to pinch that bot lane pool. Maybe someone like a Nautilus can be banned away. Nautilus and Renata have felt like the Rakan answers of choice. We saw players like On, actually, from BLG, have a lot of priority on Rakan. So a lot of teams have already put in that work to see what do we do against that Rakan if it's going to be so highly prioritized by not just, of course, BLG, of course, all of our teams left in our top bracket of the LPL, but still, I expect the Renata and the Nautilus to be taken away. That's one of them.
So Renata gone off the board. See what EDG choose to pinch here. See, mid lane still open and available, but that top lane, you've got your Jax locked in already. Do you want to try and deny something that perhaps could be comfort? Things like the Sion, for example, that have been incredibly strong in the meta, well. Very good for a team fight. Yeah, Gnar. Lots of options of things that you could just take away to make sure 369 doesn't have a comfort.
Yeah, so that for me, I love that first ban because that is not EDG banning that. That is Allah saying, no, let's see what he's got top lane. Let's see if 369's got something for that Jax, because despite 369 having such a great history of kind of top lane performances within the LPL, Allah really is in form right now. And in game one of this series, to see if you can just ban away the Kennen and the Gragas and see if you can get away with your priority picks, that's quite important going later into the series. We haven't seen the Nautilus banned away by JDG. Instead, seeing that Syndra ban, they say, okay, maybe we ban away some of Fofo's comfort champions. He's not played as much of the LeBlanc. He's only played the one game this spring, but it is historically a strong pick for him. And now, yeah, the question is, what does he go to now?
Ahri could be an option here. Knight, certainly good in the mid-jungle 2v2. The LeBlanc and the Syndra, kind of vintage picks for both Knight and Fofo. They look as lane-dominant champions, and I feel like that's a bit of mutual respect there. That once the Syndra was gone, the LeBlanc gets taken off as well. Ahri locked in for Knight, though. We have to see what EDG want to do to answer that, and I'd love to see this from Fofo. Another vintage pick for him. It's always been incredible. On the Akali, certainly does well in the scraps once you pass level 6.
It does. You're expecting to get pushed in that sort of matchup. You do have kill threat onto the largely very squishy members of JDG. So thinking about a couple of these dive buddies with the Vi, something like a Talia also wouldn't go amiss. There are options left available, so they kind of leave that mid lane pick open a little bit later. And they say lock in that Lulu, play the Enchanter matchup with the Xayah. It's not the most common support matchup we see with the Xayah, but Mako himself has had a number of very good performances on this pick. And it does give Fofo a bit more time to think about the combination with the Vi. Veigar has been another kind of primary CC into CC combo. It is going to be locked in. This probably means that you're playing very defensively now in JDG's kind of vision control. Because if you do get caught out with a Vi into the Veigar, Wukong, Ahri, they do get 100-0 if they don't play respectfully around that. You need to be very careful not to get caught out by them.
Really curious where JDG go with their final pick. Looks like it might be the Sion. Obviously, the classic Jax answers have been back, right? So 369 goes back to the Sion. Kind of a tried and true pick in the current meta. We've got a lot of power coming out from our AD carries and a lot of ability to impact the map here from our mid-jungle 2v2. I mean, Nymera, what's your take on the draft here? Because I feel like this really is a matter of perspective of what picks you value as opposed to what could be an outright better.
For sure. I think there's a lot of comfort, right, when you particularly look at Mako going towards the Lulu. I think that maybe EDG could lack a bit of engage because they didn't opt in for something like a Nautilus, because they didn't opt in for something like a Leona either. You're really looking at EDG to play through strong Jax, strong combos, picking people off rather than committing to 5v5s, because if you're playing 5v5 against the Sion, against the Wukong and the Rakan coming in for engage as well, feels like JDG have the stronger 5v5 setup if it comes to a full-on fist fight. On the other side, though, EDG, we've seen them blow open early games. We were a bit worried at the end of the regular split what would happen with that, but with JJ on form, picking up an early aggressive jungler like Vi that can continue to initiate throughout the game as well, I'm expecting EDG to come out the gates very strong and start getting into these lanes early.
Certainly hope to see that, because we've talked about it already. JDG, they will dominate a lane phase let them. And if they get that early lead, boy, does this team know how to finish a game
good luck.
fast. They will not give you a second to breathe. It's our upper bracket final here, though, between JDG and EDG. And I could not be more excited to see how this one pans out. You know the drafts are going to get exciting, but I'm hoping that these early games are going to get exciting as well. JDG, not one usually to let things go slowly. They do like to take things into their own hands. And, you know, I feel like this matchup is somehow a bit of a brains versus brawns matchup.
Yeah.
And, you know, in 2020, that's what we said about top esports JDG. But now I feel like it's almost JDG swapping identities over the years. And now they've become this team that really likes to try and really play aggressive, play through their hands, you know, and win through the brawn.
Yeah, and I think there is some intelligence to that. As level 1 does come through, of course the fellows with no abilities means that this likely won't lead to a kill or anything, but I think the intelligence of that brawn approach is saying they know themselves at least. It's not like they're trying to kid themselves. They know they're really good at laning phase. They know they're very good mechanical players. Why would you not play towards that? It's not like JDG are kind of, you know, bereft of that sort of intelligence as well. It's just that on the other side, EDG, it felt like they are the team which has been above anyone else more than the sum of their parts. I mean, it really is encapsulated in the super team versus the team that has somehow become super. And particularly that has been from the likes of JJ. Watch out for him on this fight. Starting out on the top side of the map, potentially making early inroads towards the bot lane, towards level 3.
Oh, big damage at the bottom side. Ruler having to use his ghost already. Still has flash available. Missing. Forced to use his summoner. 2 summoners for 1. EDG will be taking that trade any day of the week. Another bit of Pokons are missing as well. This is a dominant start for EDG's 2v2.
It is, and one of the worries we had coming out of JDG's first playoffs match versus DLG was actually what happens when they don't have the Zeri Lulu in laning phase. When they went to their second string of bot lane champions, it felt like the 2v2 was not as stable as potentially it could be. We know how dominant Ruler and Missing absolutely can be on these picks, but Leave and Mako have forged a name for themselves on other picks.
Yeah. And it has to be said, when we're talking about the previous series of playoffs, I don't think a single argument can be made that EDG didn't look better in their series than JDG. Like, you've got EDG smashing OMG 3-1, where OMG, they did manage to get a win in, but it felt like EDG were winning for the vast majority of that series. It felt like a dominant win there. But JDG, that series against BLG, if you missed it, it was a very strange series, very back and forth, and not super convincing. Like, a lot of people saying that really BLG kind of won that series in quotation marks, but couldn't actually finish the job. So we've got 2 very different previous series coming into it.
Yeah, and as someone who thought it would go 3-2 to BLG and put that on the predictions, I'm still going to claim like honorable victory in that case, but JDG, they felt lucky kind of getting away from that one. It won't have to matter though if they come into today strong, but having this early laning phase not necessarily go towards them, particularly with this 2v2 on paper, meant to be a lot more even than it has been in the first few levels. Gonna have to be a little bit worried. Junglers now are both on the bot side of the map. JJ, level 4 to level 3, contesting over Scuffle.
Yeah, Knight trying to move over as well, but with Fofo in the area, the bottom lane of EDG moving. Knight flashing! Answered by Fofo, really trying to make things happen here. JJ could look for Kanavi, who gets his Nimbus strike over to the minion wave. Knight, he just used his flash! And he's gone way too far forward. It's the easiest first blood I've ever seen in the world.
Knight looking like a pawn at that point. He just goes in way out of sorts and you can't retreat. What are you doing initiating that play when you don't have the numbers advantage? EDG, jungler, bot lane, already in that river. Very overambitious from Knight, maybe thinking that they could solo out Fofo in the duration of the Charm CC, but it doesn't come through. What that means now is you've given a lead over to this Xayah who didn't have to expend any resources. You can already see that, you know, EDG's bot lane making some really big moves themselves. Knight goes for the bit of a reaction play, just hopes that Fofo's caught off guard. But for me, I don't understand why you're making that play in the first place. You're outnumbered, you're outgunned. Goes down for first blood fairly easily.
You see him just trying to clear as many minions away as he can before he goes down there. Yeah, very aggressive play coming out from Knight. I mean, look, I like to see that level of proactivity, though. I'm not sure if it would have been possible. Like, even if they find Fofo, can they kill him there? I'm not so sure, but either way, I like to see that proactivity. Kanavi moving into the top side. Ala just trying to trade aggressively here. Has the island to play with. The ward in the Tri-Brush. And I think he's just going to walk away from this one. Kanavi can't find his way in. The slow from 369. Is it enough? Kanavi manages to escape that one. I'll jump in over to the minion wave.
Well, so Ward and the Tri-Brush really helping out the Jax there, knowing that if you can just keep his lethal tempo stacked up, you can get away with that, forcing Sion out of that play. So we're asking about the early impacts of these junglers on the map so far. What we have seen is JJ securing his bot side kind of dominance, capitalizing on that, getting that bot lane scuttle, and then trying to, well, rather securing that first blood for his team by focusing down onto Knight after that point. Kanavi on the other side now has to deal with something that we've not known him to deal particularly well with before. Losing bot lane, not particularly strong in this top side of the map either, and first death in this mid lane. Kanavi has to play with losing lanes.
I mean, it's a phenomenal start for EDG. It really is. Like, the first Drake, like you said, winning that scrap of the Scuttle Crab, winning the 2v2 at level 1-2 for EDG as well. It feels like absolutely everything that could be going their way is going their way. And even in the top side, right, like you say, Kanavi trying to make the play happen, but Ala playing around that island. Kanavi, though, wants to get into these lanes once again. Needs to feel like he's having an early impact here. It's 369, could be in trouble. Ala going for the all-in, will be knocked up again. But is just hitting away during the meantime. 369 getting the best of the trade as the ults come out. It looks like Kanavi's seen better of the play. Will be spotted once again. Surely Leave and Mako are safe here. They've got their own jungler coming.
They have wards, they have all of their summoners available. Again, Kanavi cannot find his inroads in the same way that JJ can. Trying to make something happen with his Wukong, but doesn't even have something like that Cyclone. So JDG feels like they've been really penned in by EDG, especially after those, after the first summoner loss, the first blood came through. Now waiting for them to really find their own entrance into this game. It might be around something like that Herald coming up in just that minute. See if there's any resets coming through for that, how the supports and AD carries respond to that as well.
Let's see. Herald has been a big point of contention just off the back of that tempo that it can get. Gold leads that it can get you in the early game.
Knight's
like quite often,
here.
See teams that like to win early, going for the Herald over the Dragons. Like you say, trying to move up top, but once again, JJ, every single place that Kanavi goes to, JJ is on the same side of the map, so I don't think a dive could come on through, really. Get themselves the Scuttle Crab. That's a blue buff as well.
Potentially. So, Kanavi, Knight actually getting into the enemy jungle. This is while Fofo's on reset, but I think JJ kind of knowing that he has the wolves to hide behind, stray skill shots means that a charm can easily connect even if they had wards over that Raptor pit. Gets himself that camp, gets himself ahead in that jungle CS, as we're currently seeing, as Kanavi at least going to get himself back into his own jungle to keep up in that regards. Herald has now spawned. What's happening with these resets? We see both bot lanes have now made their base. Really interested to see if Mako heads up towards this Herald. Indeed, he is. JDG, they've shown on the bot lane wave. Leave is going to collect that wave at turret. Means that Leave will not be at the fight. That's absolutely fine. It does mean that if a fight were to come about, Mako would be there first to respond because Missing has stayed to help Ruler shove in that lane. He's moving up now, but he's going to be a little bit behind Mako.
He is. And not level 6, crucially, for either of the supports as Ala once again using that ultimate, abusing the minor cooldown he has, advantage he had on those ultimates. It means 369, no flash available. EDG have already got the Herald by the time JDG arrives. Cyclone is in. Knight is stunned though. The double stun from Fofo is gorgeous. The answer now is Knight finding one for himself as Missing gets the killing blow. 369 1v1ing Ala, and Knight moves up to try and save the day, but 369 already went down. Fofo next cleanses the charm instantly. Now trying to turn it around once again. Fofo no ultimate here. It's a messy, messy fight, but EDG come out on top again.
Me too. Knight does get a couple of resets through. Makes things a little bit awkward because Ala is very, very low, trying to hold off that Scion. Ala's been very liberal in trying to trade ult for ult against the Scion to make sure that 369 cannot have the larger early game impact which Scion can sometimes have in these team fights. We already noted that Mako was here first. Mako got to this plate, and actually can get into fight, starts polymorphing. You see Ala basically just says, I'm going to take myself out of that fight and make sure that Ala is as well. Problem is, by the time this happens, Missing does arrive to the plate and soaks mid-line XP, so has the quickness to at least bring something back to JDG. Stops it being as clean for EDG as potentially they would have liked.
Yeah, but to be honest, a trader kills when you're getting the Herald as well. Still going to like how that one's going for EDG. 1,000 gold up now. And a phenomenal early game for the squad. JDG got to figure out what they want to do now, because you do have this Wukong Ari. Generally speaking, you want to be trying to find these picks. You want to be scrapping earlier on, but it doesn't feel like that's ever been on the cards for them. It feels like EDG answering everything that Kanavi tries to do.
It's done. Now, Haversar's potentially a 3v3 brewing. Ultimate's not available for everyone across the board there. EDG, this is something that they've done quite a lot. They don't necessarily always look for fights. Long gone are the days where every LPL team would look for every fight possible. We've calmed down. I feel like we've matured a little bit, Joe. Maybe a little bit. But still, coming into these bot lane plays, EDG, around this bot side of the map, they're just happy to just match man for man at some points and stop JDG making plays for themselves. That means that they can stop JDG getting themselves into the river for free. Second dragon is spawned now. It gives them the ability to stay in the river, go towards this objective for an easy kind of flow in from stopping JDG playing around the bot side of the map and collecting an objective for themselves.
So another great sequence of plays. EDG, super solid start for them. And I feel like a lot of people kind of still have that recent World Championship in their mind for EDG, right? Back in 2021. But when you look at 2022, it wasn't the most convincing year for EDG. It feels like this rebuild was necessary for the team. You know, in spring playoffs 2022, only 7th, 8th place. And in summer, they managed to get up to 3rd. They managed to make it to Worlds, but again, only quarterfinals at the World Championship. I feel like that was the final nail for that roster of EDG, the one that won the World Championship. And now, we've talked about it all year long. JJ and Mako being the pieces that this new roster has been built around. Moving down to the bottom side, wants to punish Leave, the player, that rookie. Joined the squad, won NEST with the LDL EDG roster. Now on the... Oh, Mako!
That's a cheeky
shield to stop the denial of the recall. That was gorgeous.
It was. Mako has actually been a very impactful Lulu player. It has felt like Mako has perfected the art of just being annoying on this champion, making your life difficult. The art of playing an Enchanter is not always about the big engages, because of course you're not going to do the same thing as a Nautilus or something like that, but you can play these edge situations and just stop your enemy team getting the advantages they expect them to do. But I think it's very right that you bring up the whole story of rebuild, because it feels like that has been the story of the LPL in general. Ult's trade in the spot side, particularly when you have that Calibrum. The ultimate allows you to get some pretty powerful damage very early on. Leave trading it out to make sure that if the dive does come in, at least you got the HP to play around it. JJ now caught out, Knight's roaming.
Let's dive in the jungle instead. JJ locked up by the end. Crosshair should go down. Kanavi with the kill. And JDG on a positive play. They're looking for a dive at the bottom side as well. Mako zoned by Knight as Leave. Taken down under the tower. Missing, happy to tank those shots up. It is a clean dive from JDG.
It is. After the Dragon was taken a little earlier, EDG did not stop JDG getting bot side vision control into their jungle. They reset after that point. That allowed them to get towards that bot side of the map. Leave might trade that ultimate earlier to keep himself up in HP, but he doesn't then have the Feather Storm to outplay the dive itself. EDG not quick enough to respond. Going into the replay, see how this came about from JJ's perspective as he's clearing through vision. I think EDG, you know, they know that they've given up bot side vision control. I just don't think they realize that JDG are playing around that very vision at that point. You see it really funky around the ultimates coming through. Knight shoved back over the wall, but when Ari gets that first kill, of course, you start getting those extra ultimate charges coming through at the same time. Without Vi there to save off the dive, Leave without that ultimate, as we were calling out before, really not able to protect himself. So a good sign from JDG brings them back to even and gold after an early game that we've been praising EDG for.
Yeah, we're a minute away from that fateful 15-minute mark. And I just want to quickly mention that JDG, when they're ahead at 15 minutes, 90.9% win rate. But EDG, they've got them beat. Because EDG, during the regular season, did not lose a single game when they were ahead at 15 minutes. And the gold in touching distance as we're just 45 seconds away. Ala, absolutely wailing on 369, but he got his plates and he's happy to walk away with it.
And he has. Of course, 369 took this matchup into that. Jax has just said, look, you know, I'm going to lose a couple of these extended trades, but at least I can keep up in farm. At least I can get a little bit of value for myself, even though Ala's damage numbers are probably going to look monstrously high after this game is done. Second Herald has spawned. It's going to be EDG heading towards that again. With Kanavi not on the same side of the map, they're not going to be contesting for that one, but they're okay with that. They get themselves a first turret of the game, first turret of the series in that bot side for Ruler on the FLRS. Good amount of gold for him, especially considering the first level or two, it felt like Ruler and Missing were having some shaky moments in the 2v2, which we've known them to have away from that Zeri. This is a good stabilizing influence for them to get Ruler towards his Imperious team fighting.
Yeah, and that's one thing that hasn't fallen off for Ruler is when you get to the late game. The team fighting is immaculate. Has his Mythic online, sees Recall, got a BF sword as well. So we'll be ever so slightly ahead in terms of AD carries, at least for the time being. And that could make a difference because Drake coming up in 40 seconds. You see 369 pushing away, doesn't have his TP. He's got 35 seconds to finish that tower and get down to the rest of the map.
And suddenly, JDG brush that bot side turret, get a couple of demolished procs in a row towards top side as well. In that counter matchup with that Scion, we thought it was going to be a consolation matchup. Maybe it's a little bit more than that. 369 getting really good value out of this. That means that JDG now have opened up the sides of the map. This might be in cost for that soul point. That would be the danger. So they really need to start sticking the landing on this point. How are they setting up for this objective? They're teleported in Ari, got themselves as much gold spent as they possibly can. Got a stopwatch for this fight on the Ari as well. Maybe that'll help Knight try and initiate dash forward with the Everfrost, get some big CC. Here comes the Scion.
Leaves in trouble. He needs to leave, but he's knocked up and will be taken out. Poured out of position and Fofo forced the flash as well. JDG, they lose the first 10 minutes, but the second 15 is on its way. They take over. Another charm lands, and it's another kill for JDG. That'll be Drake, and that'll be the gold lead.
And despite everything we talked about with EDG setting themselves up for success in the first few minutes of the game, it has not come through in the very important last couple of minutes. JDG, they call EDG's bluff around that bot side, they take them apart around that dragon, and now they find themselves in a gold lead. They stop the dragon stacking. JDG, we're talking about that important timestamp for them to try and hit that lead at 15 minutes. They're very much at that point now. A lot of it is from Leave, the rookie AD carry, this crazy blowout split from this AD carry. Has an awkward moment in that fight. Just gets picked off. Doesn't have that flash to save himself at that point. Leaves the rest of the team in a real lurch.
He had his Gale Force. I would have said surely path down, Gale Force away from the side.
Go into your jungle.
Either way, yeah. The Feather Storm, not enough to save him on this one. And it does, you know, you always have to bring up the question of rookie split. He's in the upper bracket final. How much pressure can he deal with? Did well during the laning phase, but being dived earlier on and now losing out in that team fight. We'll see. We'll keep a track on him across the course of the series, because like you say, he really has had a phenomenal year so far. And it would be out of character for him to have a rough series. I don't think we've seen occasionally him not have the greatest game, but like it's few and far between. We've never seen it for a full series.
For sure, and it has felt like Leave in their game versus OMG as well was by far the better AD carry than Abel, who himself has had a really good split. Fofo popping that goes towards the top side. Knight sees that and goes, nope, ulti away. He's already got himself a fair amount of cooldown reduction between Ionian Boots and then the Everfrost. Doesn't want to risk those Dark Steel stacks he's built up as well. Got 6 of them on the table. See if Knight can snowball this game with those in mind. We're into a very different phase of the game now, because just kind of quickly recapping what has happened, particularly because just before that last Dragon fight, JDG, they took the top lane and the bot lane out of turrets basically simultaneously. We're now playing around wider side lanes. It means that EDG, if they want to control these side lanes, they've got to move multiple people to one side of the map. You can see that Veigar's pushing in. That means that the Vi has to be there. That means that Meiko potentially has to be hanging out there as well, which means that JDG need to be aware of where EDG are moving members around the map, but it is quite telegraphed from EDG when they've put someone like this Veigar in a side lane.
Certainly is. I will say, Knight, you know, 3-1-3. I'm a little disappointed that we're seeing the Banshees as well as the Everfrost. It is a little bit like, I'm so fed, but I'm just going to be offended. That said, though, does have 6 stacks. Maybe he could go bench.
Those are good. Oh, that's good. And it's really good when you can start making plays like this. No flash on Fofo. He's just dead.
I mean, even if he had flash, he doesn't get a chance to use it. Just absolutely into the meat grinder. Potentially a chance on a tier 2 on the top side.
It is, because EDG, didn't we just talk about, hey, when they send this Veigar to a side lane, they need to send someone with him. I only saw Fofo on that side of the map, and JDG, they spot that and they say, okay, this is a moment for us to play around. Dragon's not up on the other side. It's not like there's anything of a cross-map potential from EDG. JDG, very clean in recognizing when they can make these big moments happen. Now Knight stat on those 8 stacks. Maybe again, looking towards even bigger snowball, particularly with Kanavi starting to rack up some gold himself on the Wukong.
You know, it's not a fast take on the tower, but ultimately that pick
It's
on
there.
Fofo, it's a full minute later, but they do take that tier 2 tower. Another massive influx of gold, and you can see it's a 4,000 gold lead now for JDG. They were barely ahead at the 15-minute mark. Now at the 20-minute mark, they have massively snowballed things. 2 items now for Ruler as well. 369 practically invincible with the Jack shoulder Sunfire Cave.
And we have 3 items on the Ari because we've got the Medjais. We finally see it. I have been waiting for this for so long. Knight doesn't let me down. He's been doing this for years.
Look.
The thing about something like Medjai Soul Stealer is that it is also a legendary item. It's the same gold as a needlessly large rod to upgrade it from a Dark Seal up to the full item, but it also activates whatever mythic item you've got. So with Everfrost, you get an extra 10 AP out of that. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it starts to rack up. And now if JDG get one blowout fight, get a couple assists in there, you start to really flying off the handle. And of course, at full stacks, and Medjai is 140 AP as a whole item. JDG, they know how to snowball, they know how to take fights, and by putting their life into a much easier scenario, EDG cannot afford mistakes, particularly around Knight's Ari at this point.
They certainly can't. But then Knight can't afford mistakes either, because that goes both ways if he does get caught out, if he does have a bit of a flop during one of these fights. But I will say, of all of the players to trust with the Medjais, Knight has always been
the guy.
an avid reader in that mid lane. He's the guy that will build it every single game, and I'm glad to see it here in playoffs in the upper bracket finals. This ain't Knight's first upper bracket finals, let me tell you.
Far from it. He's been at the very top echelons of the LPL before, and now coming into this mid game as well, trying to get to those finals yet again. It would be 3rd in a row, as you said. Knight uses the spell, but goes heading towards that top side, going to find JJ out here. There are plays to be made.
Oh, Charm just short. JJ might not be able to escape this one. Flash comes out. Cyclone won't quite connect, but Missing does. JJ trying to turn things around onto Missing, but he dashes away with his life. Knight's still going, but he's out of all charges at this point. Ala is here. Missing escapes thanks to 369. Buying space and time. Look how beefy that boy is in the top side.
But the play does fizzle out. EDG, they stop one of these first big plays coming through from JDG. They blow some of those ultimates. Remember, EDG, they don't have many mistakes left in the tank, especially with JDG pulling ahead of the game. Starting to get their own dragons to their own name as well. 2 mountain dragons stacked up for them. EDG, that is about as well as they could have expected that to go. At least they don't make the big mistake.
Yeah, no big mistake on either side. Both teams just about getting away with the sequence of play. It does mean JDG now 2 Drakes on their side as well. Which means, you know, that win condition potentially for EDG of stacking the Drakes feels like a long way away. And also, just worth mentioning, I feel like you have to say it every time, right? We got Mountain Drakes for the Soul. There's a Scion for JDG.
Yep.
Like, if they keep getting these Mountain Drakes, it doesn't matter what Leaf builds. He's not going to be able to kill the Scion.
Yeah. You're sat there, Leaf just looks kind of pointedly towards JJ and goes, can you please stack Black Cleaver on the Scion, please? And he looks towards the Jax as well, who's finished theirs, because they're going to have to, because they're going to have to be a pseudo Last Whisper item for the AD carry before they get that amount of gold. We've got to fight towards the bot side, then Jungle's fighting in the bot lane.
Navi surviving for a second there. The charm comes out from Knight, but it's too little too late. It's a nice little pickup from Fofo. And JJ, and I think Ganavi thought he'd found Fofo there, but sorely mistaken.
Yeah, Mako was even on the roam first as well. Now EDG, big moment. Take the smite away. It's post 20 minutes, despite them being behind in gold. JDG, we talked about them not being able to make too many mistakes either. They make a pretty big one.
Yeah, Ganavi being caught 20 seconds till the jungler's back on the map. JDG need a 4v5 in the Baron pit. Missing goes in with the quickness. Leave already used the Venom Storm, but surviving for now. Ruler stunned up on the backside as Ala tries to take down the AD carry, but Knight is tearing them apart inside the pit. 369 threatening as well. Ala turns it around and gets a kill on Missing instead, but now taken down. JDG 4v5. They get the 2 kills.
They use the fact that EDG funnels themselves into the Baron pit. They pin themselves against the objective, taking damage there to their advantage. It adds that extra damage they need at that point. JDG, they do give up that Baron. Does mean EDG will be able to reset, push out waves someplace across that map. Going back into the replay, look, let's go check the big hits. Let's see what ends up happening in this one. Missing forces out the Zaya ult very, very early. 369 is on a different angle from the rest of his team as well, so Leave doesn't get the best feather value. And that means that if Leave isn't getting awesome value, it gives some extra space to the likes of Ruler, to Knight, and the rest of the team to pick up some kills thereabouts. Obviously, have to point this out as well. Knight lives, Knight gets a kill and an assist coming from this as well, so that means it's up to 14 stacks, over that 10 stack mark, so get some extra value at that point. Mako,
oh, go Mako! He flashes straight at the sound, but dodges the skill shots. Knight, though, chasing for more here, and the Q comes down! 369 slams Mako into the floor, and suddenly JDG, they've got the man advantage, they've got an opportunity to make things happen.
Yep, Baron be damned. No one is there to push out that wave in the mid lane. EDG, they split too far and they lose their support. JDG now with a great chance to push it.
Oh, the baby cage finds 3. It's not a lot of follow-up. 369 practically invincible. But the tower doesn't go down. They manage to defend for now, and Allah behind enemy lines. Counter-strike coming on through. Knight with a charm to keep them away. Kanavi clones it up. They fall for the bait. Missing might not be so lucky. Has the quickness available. Needs a teammate to jump to. Should be able to find it over the wall. Or in fact, just going to use the Grand Entrance instead. 50 seconds on the Drake though, Namira.
Okay, so let's talk about that setup. EDG, they kind of survive the siege. They're going to go try and take themselves this mid lane outer turret. This is a thorn in the side of any team trying to play through vision control. So JDG, they're not actually able to reset because of this. They try and defend a little bit of this wave. Does mean that Knight's still out on the map. 369 still out on the map. They've not been able to spend any of their gold from the last series of plays and recover some of that HP. Finally going to get themselves off to that point. They're going to have to teleport back ASAP.
Yeah, 2 TPs out from the solo lane is 369 mid. And Knight goes down to the bottom lane, trying to fight for priority, trying to fight for a way back into their own jungle. EDG using this Baron very effectively. But despite being on half of the kills this game, it's only 1,500 gold between the two teams. Leave going very far forwards here. He's caught up. Featherstone keeps himself alive. Pulls them back in shortly. Is missing low on HP. Sion on the front line, buying space and time, and Leave goes down. Knight assassinating everybody. That's 25 stacks on the Ahri as Ruler walks away with his life. Kanavi chasing Fofo, and JDG playing a blinder.
Knight taking matters into his own hands, makes the damage for the plays, full stacks, and Fofo has a little bit of damage to his own right and a fair amount of HP. Might be able to kite this out somewhat. See what he can do. He's going to teleport out. Sees he has the HP to play around with it. Missing does not want to get a Q to the face. Lets him go, lets him escape to tell the tale. JDG, they win another huge fight. They bring things back onto their side of the map. After EDG try and push them in, they take that dragon, they take the fight. They are very much into a stable position into this game now.
They certainly are. And do you know, the funny thing is, for most of the players on EDG, feels like a fine game. Leave, though, consistently stepping too far forwards and being punished by JDG.
And there's a lot of engagement onto the side of JDG as well. We saw that 369 can just stand there, use a Q to zone out a portion of the team fight. Leave gets caught by that one. The fight starts resetting afterwards. Knight gets himself up to full stacks after this one as well. Pulled that out midway through. He's picked up a one-shot death cap coming through from this. Now, Medjai's on its own, 140
it's not bad,
AP.
is it?
Add the extra 35% AP from Death Cap, that is 189 AP from a single item. Knight at this point has transitioned into an assassin Ahri, despite the fact that the Everfrost, the Banshees, and then the Stopwatch are in there as well. Very much at the point where anyone besides maybe Allah is going to get one shot by this Ahri if they find the angle.
This is the thing. You can build a Banshees and an Everfrost if you know you can get 25 stacks on a Medjai's. There's not many players in the world that are confident that they'll be able to pull that off. But Knight certainly making it happen today. It's only a 3,000 gold lead though for JDG, but it feels like a lot more, especially with the 3 Mountain Drakes in pocket. Almost 30 minutes on the clock. JDG maintaining this lead, pushing for more, taking down the final tier 2 on the map. The only thing remaining is cracking the base. Baron's coming up in just a minute for exactly that purpose.
So EDG, I mean, despite just kind of talking about JDG and their victories in the last minute or so, EDG did put them into a bit of an awkward scenario. It did feel like JDG, they tried to, after they caught Mako in that mid lane, EDG, they survived the siege and managed to keep JDG out on the map. That's kind of the brains part of this equation. We've talked about the brains versus the brawn. EDG, they've tried to force JDG to play away from their advantages, play before they can reset, play before they've spent their gold. right now, you're looking for another one of those situations again. What can they do to stop JDG having full advantage? That will start with a lot of vision control. We'll start with trying to get in towards these objectives first, if they can do so, and pick around the Veigar cage. Stop 369 being in position for someone else. You see that missing. Caught out Ala on the side.
Oh, Ala in the wrong place here. It's not missing caught out this time. It's absolutely not. That's a 50-second death timer, and that is a wide open window for JDG to start this Baron off. Remember, Fofo has Spellbook, but I'm pretty sure he just swapped Summoners, so won't be able to go for the smite. It'll just be on JJ. And, I mean, Baron's already gone. EDG not even going to try for this one. And I think rightly so. I think that could have been game, honestly, if they lose a fight at the Baron. And now, JDG with a Baron buff in pocket. They can just waltz this one in the mid lane.
They can do, because 369 on this Scion. Remember, this was the last pick for JDG. They saw Ala's first pick Jax, left the entire draft through and said, you know what, let's just pick the good old Scion. I'm sure that'll work out. 369, the first all-pro top laner, coming through with a pick that we've expected to fail against Ala's Jax, really getting value out of it and allowing them to push into the base.
This will be 2 inhib towers, and probably 2 inhibs as well. 369 having a phenomenal performance today. Having a phenomenal split, but not the greatest most recent series. Missing, finding a double knockup, but throwing his own life in for the cause. Ruler charging forwards, trying to get that damage out. The inhibs will go down no matter what. Can JDG get away with it, or potentially find more? A TP from Ala, wants to get behind enemy lines. Ultimate's pretty much on cooldown here, certainly 369 is in they go. JJ knocked up, but will just get taken out. And before Ala can even arrive, his whole team has been taken to pieces. Ruler surviving as Kanavi's on the backline, 1v2ing. Fofo can't deal with the monkey business that's going on. Ala falls. Fofo chased into the jungle, but this is Kanavi's jungle. The rest of JDG ending the game as Fofo sent packing on the other side of the map.
Lethal team fight from JDG as they will strike first in the winners bracket final, putting themselves one step closer to their first ever MSI.
What a phenomenal performance here in game number 1 from JDG. And, you know, dicey in the early game, losing the 2v2 in the bottom lane. Felt like JJ had an answer to everything Kanavi wanted to do. But then, I don't know, it was like 12 minutes into the game or something, JDG seemed to flip the switch. And since that point, they went from strength to strength. It felt like they always had tempo. It felt like they knew exactly what they needed to do to close the game.
It felt like after the second Dragon, JDG they flipped the switch. They got a load of really good vision control around the bot side jungle of EDG. That led into a bot dive. That led into... It felt like EDG kind of lost the plot a little bit at that point. They lost 2 towers in very quick succession on the sidelines, and then they lost a big objective fight. They kind of all in to try and get themselves that third Dragon. Didn't end up working for them. And JDG, as we said, when they play through an advantage, when they have the power in pocket, they are so incredibly good at seeing out advantages. On a personal level, very happy to see the Medjai's Ahri coming out again. I've been a big proponent of that. And the fact that Knight could do that to that degree and play with the confidence that we know he has is a great sign for JDG to start off this series.
Yeah, and we've been talking a lot about top laners across the course of this split, and I feel like the top lane pool is very stacked this year. Bin so far has been kind of the leader of the pack, and I feel like today, Ala versus 369, you're fighting for number 2 on the tier list, and then we'll see if anyone can take out Bin later in playoffs. But right now, 369 looking fantastic in that conversation. Ala didn't necessarily have a bad game. I feel like he was up against it here with how the game went. Not a whole lot he could do about it. But 369, after the series against BLG, really having some rough games for himself, off the back of a dominant split, I was a little bit nervous because in my experience, 369 goes in waves. He either is dominating or being dominated. And quite often it's a period of time, but feels like he's pulled himself together after that series against BLG and having a fantastic start.
Yeah. Which raises questions now for, okay, game 2 coming up. What are we going to see in terms of draft adaptation? We saw an awful lot of solo lane focus and top lane focus from the draft. We saw that first pick Jax. And then somehow a last pick Scion. Is very rare that you see a first pick in one role answered by the can pick at the very end of the draft on the other side. I'm wondering if we're going to see one of these teams look at trying to deny a cannon, or rather like allow a cannon through, see if one team can try and break that power pick. Because Ala, he was given one of his power picks. He was given all of the draft advantage in the world, and he couldn't quite make it work. EDG as a team couldn't make that top lane matchup work because the rest of the map snowballed around them. I think EDG, they'll need to switch things up in terms of their ban priorities, I feel, coming into Game 2.
Have to change how they're approaching this one. I mean, partly, I see the Veigar and the Jax and a Zio in your AD carry as well. I see a lot of scaling, and I don't see that much ability to fight in the early game, which does feel like a lot of this series is going to be down to early game fights. Around the 15-minute mark, we really did start to see JDG wrestle all of the game. Missing as well, having a fantastic game. Like, so many of these moments, Missing starting off. 369, quite often finding big knockups on Leave as well. Like, Leave, I think, stepping out of position a few times too aggressively and being punished pretty heavily.
And I think, you know, despite LPL actually being quite good at the ranged, like support kind of meta, I think a lot of these supports are very happy to have their Rakans back, to have those playmaking moments.
Big time. Yeah, we've got a lot of Baolan fans in our support pool here in the LPL. In fact, we've literally got Baolan in the support pool in the LPL. We're going to jump into a break, and we'll see how things will go in game number 2. I'm sure EDG have plenty more in the tank. Let's find out.
35 seconds till the dragon spawns, and that could be key here. If he's able to get onto carries and stop them from getting that extra attack speed, reduce them down, that could be very key in the next few fights. The PP gods
Scout.
looking for something. They get the double knock up, and Abel is dead. They went in full 5-man here and get themselves the tower. 3 kills. The solo laners of OMG nowhere to be seen.
Been thinking about it. He's got a blast cone to take. There's good aqua prison from JDG, but Lyric, they're on the wrong side of the map. They've got to run away. Brawler tried backing away, but BLG just pinched massive. Ben has flash. He's got slicing Maelstrom waiting for his time to go in. 369 zones him away, and maybe it gives help to the other members of JDG, but as he flashes, as Cullen comes through, Jing Dong, this is not where you want to be. Konami goes in for the kick. Ain't it as Elf goes in and takes down a world champion. He was known as Joe Among, but now we ride him like a stallion as Elf.
They're going 5 people towards the Gnar. All 5 of them.
Breaker, baby. There's a twisted advance to stun up. There's no damage just yet as everyone's on Bin. The guy will pop the ulti. Bin's got the other 2 members of the family coming through. A Gnar ulti there. He's still alive. Dodges shock blast. Flashes past. Rocket doesn't kill him. Mini Gnar gets out. Gigabin! Hook not going to land, of course. Halloween Miss just does the job. Crisp unable to penetrate as Xiao waits in rush. That W's not available. Everyone on top of Ben giving them the shy treatment. What?
That's certainly a positive sign for them. Jagulov wants the tower in the bottom side. TN behind enemy lines as Shanji has arrived. Slicing Maelstrom comes out immediately. It's only a stun onto Mark though, and now finally turned around. Rookie tanking the tower, gets the shield and will walk away. A kill for Top Esports. Can they get away with it? Shanji no ult. Crescendum does land onto Jagulov. There's a Gravitum as well. A great route from Rookie, but it's not enough to deny the Gale Force. Abel jumps on forwards for more.
赤信号だとしてももう止まらない理解不能のスピード100倍速い地獄なんて哀れよねねえ聞いてよな負けの準備でもしておきな Come try me get you down 悩んでもやめないわ No more 苦い思い消えてよこの街に呼ばれる際にレクチャー全力で追い越してよさ Driving モード始めよう 近道なんてのの完全にアウトだからあんたの後悔楽しみだわすげた気づいてよマジでベイベー一番でノックアウトするわ You better be listening 地位をこうなんて哀れよねねえ聞いてよな負けの準備でもしておきな Come try me yet when you were down 悩んでもやめないわ No more 苦い思い消えてよこの街に呼ばれる生命フェッチャー全力で追い越してよさ Dreaming の始めよう
Country song. You and me going out tonight. Let's turn the radio on. You got your skirt on tight and your legs on long. Let's lay some whiskey down. We'll dance all night, then get it on to another country song. Tonight, let's turn the radio on. You got your skirt on tight and your legs on long. Let's lay some whiskey down. We'll dance all night, then get it on to another country song.
EDG 的节节台选手的话，他这个赛季其实状态蛮好的，所以要小心那个他的前面节奏吧。季后赛的话，就是跟常规赛不一样点，就是都很稳，就是不容易被抓。然后团战的时候，他们很注意，就他们的怎么说呢，危险点吧，所以更要稳一点吧。常规赛的话，其实我们的配合跟这种小操作也是不好，所以我们现在遇到的话，因为我们变厉害嘛，所以会剥夺他们。
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the upper bracket finals here in the LPL. I'm Munch. I'm joined by Nymera, and we were just discussing JDG coming out swinging in game number 1 and who we thought would be MVP. And honestly, there's, I'd say, a solid 3-4 different candidates that you could have picked coming out of game number 1, because JDG, feel like across the board, phenomenal teamwork.
And this is a little bit opposite from what we were saying at the start of the day. We're talking about how EDG were the team that were more than the sum of their parts. They were the team that felt like they'd come together to create something really great. JDG have learned to do that through Spring. It did feel like for most of Spring, it has been individual excellence, which has characterized this team, and understandably so. They have individually excellent players. But in this game particularly, after taking a couple of knocks early, they managed to find their way back through some very good combination play, through some very good skirmish play, which allowed them to skirmish and snowball into the game.
Yeah. Knight ends up being the centerpiece, though. He gets himself an MVP game number 1. And I think when you've got your 25 stack Medjai's, an instant buy death cap after a fight, like, I'm on board with that. Playing the assassin there during the mid. It was that fight where he gets the triple kill in the mid lane that I think really got the ball rolling for him, to the point where it was like, okay, he's going to take over now. They're fighting the Baron Pit as well.
Yeah, and for me on a personal level, very, very satisfying. I made a whole PowerPoint about how I thought that pro players were not snowballing this champion well enough for the purpose of this game. But you look at someone like Knight, who just combos up where he has the resources to make uneven plays, get towards these fights with his target access, and that's when JDG really start popping. Because when they have initiation angles, they have individually excellent players. They have so many ways to initiate on these plays, and EDG felt like they were caught a little bit sleeping once they took that initial first loss or two around second to third Dragon, where they lost a load of towers and they started losing some fights, and then this was the real fight where things kind of exploded. I think Leave in particular walks away from this first game feeling pretty awkward, got caught out a number of times despite a good couple of early level laning phase trades. EDG will have to walk away with a couple of different adaptations, some in play, some in the way that they just approach the draft.
Yeah, we'll see what EDG are going to change coming into game number 2, because clearly something wasn't working. Clearly what they brought to the table here for game number 1 was not it. I actually like the Jax for Ala. I feel like Ala was playing well on the Jax individually, but was in a rough situation. I'm curious what they're going to go for Leave if the Zeri is banned every single game. Because Leave, I think, absolutely exceptional on the Zeri across the course of this year. The question is, can he transition that into the plethora of AD carries available? Because you can play extremely aggressively on Zeri and get away with it. And I feel like seeing him on Xayah in game number 1, he was kind of playing that aggressive Zeri style, and then JDG killed him because he can't leave again in the same way.
Hot take as well. Mako is a very good Lulu player. That was not a Lulu game for me. That was actually a pick which I thought allowed them... It didn't allow them the ability to engage into a lot of these fights and maybe pick some off in the skirmishes before JDG used their own initiation, which of course they had more of, to take the fight to them. Leave obviously individually positioned quite poorly. He didn't really get the damage that he wanted to. I think he was positioning as though his team had a bit more engaged than they did, though, as well. I think there are multiple things playing into this. Maybe we see Mako go to something like a Nautilus. Maybe we even see him picking up something like an Annie, if that's not banned as well. That's now a flex pick for EDG. In fact, EDG banned that away on blue side, which is a little bit surprising to me. So there are a couple of different ways you can approach this. I didn't mind the Vi Veigar combo. I think that's a good pick combo. But EDG did not set themselves up for success when they were looking to play around these skirmish-heavy fights, which erupted into 5v5 sooner than they really wanted.
Somebody get Fofo a cup of coffee. Stat. That is the biggest yawn I've seen this decade. The man needs to wake up a little bit. I mean, look, playing Veigar for a full 30 minutes, that will put you to sleep. Hopefully he gets something a bit more interesting for game number 2 to keep it focused.
Wow, the Veigar slander. Didn't expect that from you, Munch.
I mean, look, it is
that
a
much of a
boring
problem with the champion?
Look at this guy. Just bringing it out.
That is incredible, actually. I want to get my hands on some of them. I never got any of those cards. They're really
I didn't get that many. I didn't get that much good stuff. I will say I've got a signed Aki card. That has increased in value dramatically this week. But yeah, I mean, EDG, I think one of the things that is worth mentioning as well is that the winner of this series gets to MSI. For Mako especially, that's a huge, huge thing. It's not just about this MSI. It's about Mako was part of the first LPL team to win an MSI, to win an international
First ever
in the
MSI
kind
champions.
of modern League of Legends rotation.
Yeah, they were the
I'd love to
first
see
MSI
Mako make it again.
champions. No, because MSI started in 2015. EDG started off the entire MSI kind of like run of tournaments by winning that. And Mako, even back then, funnily enough, we see the Annie on the ban list. That was when Annie support was back in meta as well. Some of my first memories of this player in the support role was him on the Annie, but EDG content to ban that away themselves. Very similar bans, actually, throughout this first round. In fact, this is the same draft so far. We saw the Xayah and the Wukong picked up for JDG in their first round as a response to this Jax. Wonder if this is now going to be a change coming through into the second round of bans, or maybe, as we said, a change for Mako on his support pick as well. He picked up the Lulu. Maybe that'd be a difference. It's going to be a change for both of them. So it is going to be not the Xayah and the Lulu, it is going to be the Lucian Nami, which has fallen off a little bit in priority in the LPL, behind Aphelios lanes, behind Zeri, and of course behind the Xayah Rakan as well, which will almost certainly be locked in by JDG.
See how this one's going to go. I think a lot of people in the League of Legends community not fans of the Lucian Nami anymore. However, while it does have a pretty negative win rate globally, and it is technically a negative win rate in the LPL, it is only just negative in the LPL. And crucially, when you look at it in isolation against lanes like Aphelios, it's actually a positive win rate. So it's all about the context. It's bad against Zeri, and it's bad against Varus, but against other lanes, it can work very well. And EDG, they needed more power in the mid game. Lucian Nami will certainly give you that.
That it will, and it allows Leave to be very aggressive in a way that maybe the Xayah shouldn't have been in that last game. But yeah, I completely agree. I think that a lot of people have tainted the vision of Lucian Nami by watching a lot of teams that don't know how to play around that first item spike. In the LPL, with our very top teams, we know how to play around item spikes here, on the whole. We've got a lot of these teams which really know how to make the most out of these two champions. It can get a little bit blitzed in lane by the Xayah and the Rakan because their level 1 is actually very, very strong as well. We're getting through into our second round of bans, though, which are, of course, going to be a little bit different. Knight is not going to get that Ahri again. He is one of the very best Ahris in the world. Showed it in that last game as well. EDG were left floundering with that one. On the other side, though, EDG going to get denied some of their engaged junglers, so that's going to be the Sejuani banned. I'd imagine the Vi is going to get banned as well. No, it's actually going to be the Lee Sin instead.
I want to see Syndra left open here, because while it's not super meta, Knight Syndra is legendary. We've seen it a great many times,
He's
specifically
won the finals
versus
with that before.
versus Yagao's LeBlanc, like legendary matchup right there. But Bofo, no slouch on the Syndra, no slouch on the LeBlanc himself. I would love to see a matchup like that in mid lane, where we've got these two players that are known for individual lane dominance. That is what made Knight famous. That is what Bofo was known for. Back in 2021, he was arguably the best laner in the LPL. So I would love to see a matchup in that mid lane that gives these mid laners the opportunity to really flex their muscle.
There is a caveat with Fofo in lane, which typically has been he kind of needs his comfort champion pool. We talked about him hovering the Akali and then the LeBlanc being banned away in that first game. It has felt like, actually, of the players on EDG, or at least in terms of the mismatches in the matchup here today, it has felt like the champion pool difference has been towards Knight over Fofo, who's typically gone towards the Jace, which is banned away, the Annie, which has also been banned away. And we're seeing him being left later into draft to try and find himself a champion which he is comfortable to play on into a full draft, which still fits his more niche champion pool.
Yeah. It's like Bofo might just go for the Veigar once again, going for that scaling in the mid lane. Ability to lock down whatever it is that Knight goes for. LeBlanc available, Syndra available. But Syndra not the most meta champion. It is that signature pick for Knight that we've talked about.
Oh, he's teasing you, man. He's teasing you. He's just leaving there saying, oh, I could play this, I suppose. Oh, I guess I could do it for you. He's hovering a number of picks, though, because you see this Veigar, and yeah, we're talking about, like, the early lane prio being a little bit, or the early fighting ability not being there from EDG. Syndra has that in spades. It's going to be the purple matchup in mid lane. Dark Magician versus that Syndra.
It's so exciting. I mean, Knight is just such a monster on this champion. He's got a 75% win rate over 50 games on the champion. It's absolutely absurd. He's a monster on the Syndra. We've seen it before in playoffs, we've seen it before in best of fives, and we've seen what he's able to do. Keep an eye on Knight at all times, and most importantly, keep an eye on where he's putting those orbs. He likes to hide them inside walls and find secret stuns that nobody's expecting.
He can do that. He knows all of these mechanics. Sadly, with the ASU for Syndra and the kind of changes coming through, she lost a couple of those niche mechanics with like the EQ, where you can kind of get the reverse of the timing you expect it to be in terms of when that Scatter of the Week comes out. But still, Knight, he's going to use every ability he's got to make the most out of this pick. Has a bit more ability to maybe have that individual assassination power. Syndra doesn't really need that much help on the individual level getting ahead of things. On the other side, though, different jungler coming out as well. JJ not going towards that fight. It's the Viego. It is probably going to be his own Viego skin coming in from the EDG World Championship run not so long ago. He has a bit more ability to pop off this game himself.
I've mentioned it a few times as well across the course of this year, but Ruler saying in an interview that he only ever uses his skin in matches that are so crucial, that are that important, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that is Samsung Galaxy skin right there from when he won the World Championship. JJ, you'd expect to be wearing his own as well. And what a matchup we have. We have multiple players in a meta where their world's champions, their world's champion skins are playable. Like, what a treat.
Yeah. It is, because it reminds me of, if we're going to go talk about, the very first MSI in 2015, the precursor to that in 2014 was one of the very first events which I watched as well, kind of getting into esports as a whole and League of Legends, was All-Star 2014, which was when, of course, the SKT roster of that time played their world skins out of meta. This is a little bit different, but Ruler hovering in on that one. He has got his Samsung skin on, the one which he ruled Season 7 with all those years ago. The fact that he's still at the top of his game, still arguably up there with the best AD carries in the world, playing his own signature champions, it is an absolute treat.
It's completely insane. Ruler just... I mean, I remember back then, the absurd level of team fighting that you would see out from Ruler, and that certainly has not changed. I will say, game number 1 of this series, it was Leave and Mako winning the 2v2 early on. We'll see if having the Zaya Rakan for the laning phase can change things around for them, though they are up against Lucian Nami, which can be devastating to have to play.
So we see some jungle wards going down as well. We talked about how JJ has typically gotten himself active on the map, and in the first big plays of the game, typically JJ finds a good angle for it, whether that is in bot side river around those scuffles like we saw in that first game, or whether it's into a lane. He's starting on the same side of the map. He's spotted out this time. JDG will see him on that blue buff heading towards the bot side of the map. He's on that Viego. Really needs to commit flash to a lot of these ganks if he's going to have the same kind of ability to lock down kills, but he does have that early damage you can get from the Viego. Spotted again, though, potentially on his Raptors.
Yeah, easy 7-0 on the Syndra. I believe that's just this split.
Yes.
Syndra has not been that meta. It has been. He's played it 7 times, 7 wins. And, historically, a dominant champion for him. Going to be very happy picking that up into a matchup that he knew he was going into. JJ smells a rat here. Kanavi moving into the jungle. Mako moving over to make sure JJ's safe on this one. The red buff will reset. Knight was moving as well. Remember, this is where we saw sort of a questionable flash from Knight early on in the previous game. This time around, it's a little bit calmer.
That it is. The thing with something like Scatter of the Week is that often you're sat there with such a high missile speed on that ability as well. You don't need to commit flash to get that one skill shot through. Post level 6, you can kind of do your funky flash ults into stuns. Those are really fun. Have to see how it can do with that flash away from Leave.
I mean, you'll take that every day of the week. JDG, pretty much a free trade. And forcing a flash out from Leave, punishing over aggression there. JDG will be very happy with that one. It's Kanavi down on this bottom side, but it will be JJ to get the Scuttle Crab. Don't know if they'll be able to find anything more. Both junglers on that bottom side, but you see Kanavi moving away.
Well, the thing that happened here was that Kanavi went into the enemy jungle to try and stop JJ's farming happening so cleanly. Now, he's going to be on vision.
Yeah, JJ moves in. I don't think he's going to be able to get anything done here. Ruler are missing. Maybe just recall. This lane is going to be frozen away from them. This is going to be painful.
And this is the thing, right? Because JJ he does always take an angle in an early game. He's trying to achieve something. He spots one lane and goes, that's the difficult lane. Ala has Counter-Strike. He's got his lethal tempo stacking up.
Yeah, he'll win the 1v1 against Kanavi, but He knows that ain't going to be a 1v1.
Yeah.
Knight just in the wings and the spike comes down. So grab will be taken. It's 369. I don't think that wave is quite going to crash. Not ideal for him. Just outside of turret range, most of it.
I mean, I think with the cannon there and his ability to wave clear in, he'll be able to see this one into the turret either way. So wave state fixed up for 369. Something in the early levels which can happen, of course, is that Jax takes 1 or 2 good trades with kind of his passive and lethal tempo stacking up. Things get really awkward for the Sion after that point. But as you can see, 369 even bold enough to threaten demolish procs. He's out there going, I could go for some plates right now. I could go for some crockery. Not able to get that one at this timestamp, but still managing to pin him under turret. Allows Kanavi, of course, to play around that top side scuttle, at least get that one, as we saw a little earlier. Leaving Mako. Please don't walk up to that tri-bush. That'd be very bad for your short-term health. Not going to do so, indeed. Waiting until JJ finishes his Raptors and his Krugs, so he can be around to help them out on their side of the map.
369 does get his demolish proc off. It costs him half of his health bar, but he knows that the junglers aren't nearby. Stacks that wave up as well before leaving, so that will push in towards him if he just leaves it alone. Although I think he's actually just going to clear that one. Kanavi in the brush, making a play happen. The knockup is there and leave no flash. It's the first blood for JDG. A beautiful coordinated play.
Yeah, that's a misread from Leave and Mako. Not sure what they were thinking about where Kanavi could be. They didn't have any, well, they still don't have any vision on the other side of the map to see where Kanavi is. Maybe EDG thought with 369 getting demolished proc, maybe he feels safe on his side of the map. Maybe they think that Kanavi would be there, but real misread.
Nope, that's just 369.
Getting in. At 369, he's getting the most out of this, and now he has level 6 as well. He's hanging around, potentially looking at a bot side play for this dragon and then teleporting back up towards the top side. Of course, with teleport changes just a year ago, you can't teleport very early into the game to anything but towers. You need to walk down to these fights yourself. He's doing so now, walking into lane towards that bot side, maybe looking to double dunk on this Lucian.
Yeah, missing and Ruler. Hiding in the brush right now. Leave. Still no flash available. Not level 6.
Oh, Leave.
Needs to be cautious. 369's going underneath the tower. The knockups galore. And the feathers fly back in as Knight gets a consolation kill on the end of the play. It's another 2 for JDG and a Drake on top.
And what a disastrous first couple of games from the prodigy AD carry of EDG. Leave an incredible spring, but in this all-important series, the one that could see them through to the organization's first MSI since that win in 2015, has been an absolute shocker from the young AD carry. 0-2 now. JDG, they look from that first game and say, okay, who was underperforming? Let's dunk on him again.
And you do have to bring up a question here for ED. Oh, Knight. Stealing away the Scuttle Crab. It's going to cost him his flat. I don't know how worth that is, really.
Oh, but the mental damage, Munch. The mental damage cannot be understated.
Knight really is a man of his own, isn't he? 1-0-0, has his boots. There's Kanavi. Now, no smite, because he used it on that crab, but he gets it with the crushing blow. JJ smites it to barely any HP, and somehow Kanavi comes out with the buff.
Oh gosh, EDG, for all we have talked about them recovering their early game, this is so annoying to play against, because now you're suddenly going, oh man, this Lucian Na'Vi, we want to play around their power spikes, get to an early first item, play around the bot side of the map until Ala's ready to take over his own side lanes. That's not going to happen. Maybe you could get an advantage on the Viego. And this last couple of smites happening, that makes it a little harder again. Just puts you couple of 100 gold behind potentially where you would like to be. EDG need to really start settling the ship a little bit more, try and bring it back to even keel, because this is looking a little bit like JDG are inside their heads.
It does feel like JDG sort of downloaded them in game number 1. Lucian Army, remember, spikes really hard when you get that first mythic in, right? So let's not call it over just yet. It's a 500 gold lead.
Remember that thing? It says like you wouldn't download a movie, you wouldn't steal a scuttle crab. That's what it feels like with JDG. They're in fact downloading and taking everything they can away from EDG.
They have both downloaded the team and stolen a scuttle crab. It's a nightmare. The BBC advertising company in absolute shambles right now. Is JJ going to face check straight into Kanavi? Kanavi just kicks it one off straight away with the Cyclone. JJ will be taken down by Ruler using the Feather Storm just to finish the job off. Another couple of kills coming in. That's 4 We're 9 minutes in!
This is such a good read from JDG to just see how JJ is trying to impact the map, see what mistakes Leave is making. Fofo walking up to Knight, maybe thinking he can get a kill with the Ignite.
Oh, the big fist is there. One more Q do the trick. Knight with the fancy forward. Can he dodge it? The ult comes out back at him. The auto is there. Fofo gets it. But at what cost? He's on the wrong side of the map and there's a monkey chasing him. We've seen this before at the end of the previous game. Kanavi chasing Fofo through the jungle, missing there with a heal as well for Kanavi. There's no way out for Fofo. He knows it. It's actually a flash from Kanavi just to make sure there's no execute.
I mean, you're looking at this for Fofo. He gets a whole load of stacks with his passive for hitting enemy champions with abilities. He gets himself a kill. It is something much needed for EDG. You've got to take everything you can at this point. He also takes away Kanavi's flash and takes away about a minute of his time as well, chasing him down. It means that at least EDG get themselves a dragon, which by all kind of rights probably should be getting since they're losing bot side this hard. A lot of things have changed from that game 1 to game 2. We criticized maybe the Lulu pick as something which didn't help EDG later on into the last game in terms of denying them some engage options. But it's given them ability to, it's lost them the ability to play through that laning phase. Luckily, Fofo picks up the solo kill, picks off, of course, Knight's or ever famous Syndra, gets something back for EDG.
Really great stun to start that sequence of play off. The concern I have, though, is that, you know, we're praising Fofo for getting the 1 kill. Doesn't feel like enough comparatively to what Ruler's got in his pocket. And like you said before, Ruler, you know, we've seen a couple of struggles during the laning phase across the course of this split, but once he gets to the team fighting, if you can get him a couple of items, he's an absolute monster. And they've got him a couple of items. We're already getting to that point, so JDG feeling good. And remember, 1-0 up in the series already. Coming out from that BLG series, not looking convincing, but today, they've turned it on.
And the other side of this is saying, you know, we can talk about the laning phase worries, XYZ, whatever. When they do win lane, there are very few teams across the world even, I would say, that snowball as well from bot lane early laning phase leads, as well as JDG. Knight walking up does have the flash this time. Trying to use his first strike to pick off Neko and Leave. Just getting a lot of gold here.
He just walks into V1, Leave trying to answer it, and Knight flashes out to safety. Great bait, mate. I'd rate that 8 out of 8.
And he does, and he gets so much first strike gold from that too. Walks up and says, hey, this bot lane's behind. I don't need to be afraid of them. Does the damage calculation. Gets his team a kill as well. Fofo trying to at least stop JDG from resetting, stopping them from being able to respond to the cross map, which is the Herald on top side.
Can they finish off the tower? 369 trying to defend. A TP comes out from Knight as well. And it's enough to deny the play here. So tower advantage still in favor of JDG, just about. And you know, I just saw both 369 and Knight on my screen, and I very nearly called them top esports. That is, I don't think I'm ever going to get over that. I don't think I'll ever get used to this.
There's just way too much history of these players. And, you know, this is the kind of thing we've had with a lot of teams across LPL. We've had Xiaohu on Weibo, and I've been sat there going, oh, it's RNG. No, it's not. No, it's not. These players aren't on the same teams anymore. Heck, the longtime mid laner of EDG, all the way back from 2016, Scout, he went to LNG. Similar things there. We've had a real revolving door, particularly this year, of teams finding themselves in new eras, rebuilding. And it feels like these two teams on your screen are the teams which have been the successful rebuild. JDG, as you're saying, they've been taking players from top esports, taking some of these great names. EDG finding themselves a very different project, trying to find themselves into a fight.
JJ taking half of his health there. Not a trade he wanted to have. Yeah, you're absolutely right in that JDG becoming 2020 top esports at a rate of 1 player per year. 369 last year, now 9 this year. But so far, looking a lot better than that, because those finals in 2020, they went the full 5 games. Right now, JDG, they can maintain a form like this. They're not looking like they'll be losing games. This is absolutely magnificent. And, you know, talking about the franchise players for the teams, we've been talking about the roster changes. The piece that hasn't been changing for either is that jungle role, right? JJ and Kanavi. JJ, the world champion, alongside his team, and Kanavi has been the linchpin player for JDG for a long old time now. As they hammer away in this mid lane, maybe they'll be able to finish this one off as the knockup comes on through, but missing. Dashes back to his team. They need to finish this tower. Finally goes down as 369. Looks for a little bit more. Big damage from Force to flash away. Ala behind enemy lines here. Ruler could be in trouble. Featherstorm still available, but Knight goes down instead. Kanadi finds space on the back line, but in the meantime, Ruler just doesn't have the damage. Finally takes out Ala, but it's 2v1. And EDG back into the game.
Huge play from EDG, an overstay from JDG, which is surprising given all of the vision they had to spot Ala coming in from the bot side of the map. Look at those red wards littered through bot side of the map, kind of on the entrances to that mid lane. They still could stop Ala getting a very big entrance into that play. So, going back into the replay, see what the big moments of this were. Again, JDG trying to use this Scion, who's already very tanky, to try and seed, but he's not the one tanking. Missing is basically out of the play at this point, so you don't get to the quickness, you don't get to use that engage, which then EDG say, okay, you don't have your engage tools, you don't have a flash on your Syndra as well, there's no heal left, you're dead. JDG feels like that kind of misallocation of who's tanking that tower stopped them from having the same tools to really be able to team fight with.
Ruler does manage to sweep up Ala at least. A bit of revenge there for his mid laner. It's 5-0-1. That is really terrifying.
Bit terrifying.
But Ala, I mean, Ala looked pretty good on the Jackson game number 1. Like, he was not in a position where he could really have that much impact individually, but Mechanics looking on point today and desperate to find his team opportunities. Was able to do so there. And Fofo looking for opportunities on tonight earlier as well. It feels like both the solo laners of EDG now finding an individual opportunity to take Knight out of the picture.
We're not really talking about JJ in the same regard though, which I think a lot of people will be surprised about if you've been tracking EDG's journey. It has felt like JJ has become the best jungler in the LPL, or rather returned to that kind of advantage as well. Thinking about how well he did in his Worlds run as well. We know that this player can have such a good run of form. Back to those solo laners though, Alan's sat there going, well, you're not going to go push down here. I don't have vision on this side of the map. Why would I push out beyond my safe boundaries? Holds that wave at tower, pulls Knight down to try and push that back in. See how EDG play the map, knowing that Jax is going to be slow pushing this out at best.
It's a Drake of Peace as well, with Cloud Soul. So I can't imagine that much dragon-focused action this game. This Knight will get a little bit of damage onto this tower. Had his jungler nearby, but too much will come of that. It's JDG, they know they've still got the advantage. It's about 3,000 in their favor as a TP actually going to be used by 369. Try and brute force the play. Demolish available, but 369 not going to go too far forward, not going to overforce things here. I think JDG will finish this one off, Ruler. One more auto will do the trick. It's a slow play, but JDG eke out another tower.
This is a great response from JDG. EDG saying, well, I don't want to push this out on the with no vision on this side of the map. So JDG say, okay, bet, we'll just push it into your tower instead. You're going to keep it at tower. Gives us a way to hit that inner turret for free. As much as we've talked about this match, set it up as the Brains versus the Brawn, JDG, very intelligent response to how EDG were looking to set up a freeze in this bot side. And again.
Oh. I don't know if Knight actually wins this 1v1. Depends if Ala can get close. Missed the stun though initially, and that means he will just have to back away.
He's literally there fishing for stacks. He's fishing for splinters on this Syndra, saying, hey, this is someone I can hit to get myself scaling up even more.
There's the stun. Ala backs away. A bit more damage. That's an ultimate going to be used as well by Knight as Mako arrives. Knight realizes he's bitten off more than he can chew.
He has. Gets some first strike gold, gets some splinters out of the Syndra passive. Decides, okay, overstayed a little bit now. But JDG, knowing that Mako has had to respond to that bot side, will have a numbers advantage towards that top side where the second Herald has spawned, going to pick that one up. And now you're looking at some very difficult scenarios for EDG again. Because if they are going to continue on with this philosophy of saying, hey, we just want to leave Jackson a side lane to individually either freeze and deny something from 369 or win that matchup, then you have to be aware of where that second Herald is going to be dropped. Maybe that gets dropped onto this mid lane in a turret. Maybe it gets dropped before the next Dragon spawns or the next Baron kind of comes up on the table as well. EDG needs to be very aware that JDG have a power play in pocket.
And it feels like every single time we swap to a different player on the map for JDG, they're taking a tower. Like we've seen them managing to pressure that bot tier 2 tower. We go up top side. 369's getting a tower. It feels very reminiscent of game number 1, where they were just moving around the map, taking every single tower. 369 could be in trouble here. Do they have the damage to actually bring him down? It's a good block, ultimate for ultimate, but he's still got 2/3 of his health. He's chilling.
Does Divine Sender or no? Not able to cut through that tanky Scion. which has been a very good blocker pick for JDG. EDG, we were worried from game one about how not necessarily the individual matchup was going between the Jax and the Sion. I mean, in this case, of course, 369 doing very well in the individual matchup again. But we thought, hey, isn't this just adding too much of a frontline difference between the two teams? These AD carries, they're not doing the same job. One of them's hitting a lot more squishy members than the other one. We're finding that yet again. EDG, 2 games against the Sion. I wonder if they start having to thinking about taking away some of these tank options. JJ, probably checking that rush after the sweeper. Some information from it. Clearing through some vision again. JDG continuing to keep their vision line very, very solid.
Yeah, and I feel like we need to... Oh, hang on, lead going in onto missing hit. Cullen going to be used. I was about to say we need to revisit the conversation of EDG's bottom lane. They've both got mythics. Leave immediately tries to use and abuse that fact, but it's a Rakan. It's so difficult to punish a Rakan. Same can be said for the Xayah with that Featherstorm. Like, who do you really focus? 369 certainly can't be the target. And if you go too close tonight, you might get one shot yourself.
Yeah, I was just wondering that myself, because you think about EDG, they gave themselves a bit more mid-game potential to play through with the Lucian army, but it's also 3 kills in the negative for the Lucian, 2 for Mako as well. It just puts you behind these power spikes. And as much as we kind of set things up to say, hey, I know you're all tired of Lucian Nami, but we've got really good teams at playing it through here. JDG put it behind before it could ever get online. And now, you come around to this conversation of who do you target now? Because you're behind with the Lucian Nami, because the front line is ahead from JDG, those targets become very, very hard to isolate.
Certainly do. JDG happy to just stay as a team and make that as difficult as possible. Another Drake will go their way. They're 5,000 gold up. And it feels like for JDG, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of people tuning in off the back of LCK watching today and saying, what the hell? LPL, I was promised non-stop action. From JDG's perspective, you've already got 5 kills on Ruler. Like, you're ahead. You've got a Sion that's scaling up. There is no need for action. If you can avoid it, all the objectives are yours for free at this point, unless EDG does something about it. So the gloves are on for EDG here. They're the ones that have to make things happen.
Yeah, and the thing for JDG also to kind of add on to this point as well, they have the gold they need, and they also don't want to push too hard and get themselves flanked. You can see if JDG push too far forward, there are a couple of wards which maybe Ala could make another big flanking play off of. He kind of needs to. You don't really want to be playing Jax straight down the middle of a team fight into a Sion, into Xayah Feathers, into the Syndra Orbs. JDG love taking one-directional fights where they can play front to back. So JDG, again, it just works very well for them to just keep trudging along, get themselves items. 3 items now picked up for Ruler, who picks up the rapid fire cannon. Zeal item in place. It's going to be even more annoying for EDG to deal with. Now, Xayah going to have more movement speed from that item to get away from the initial engage. They just need to keep playing it as it is and make sure that EDG do not get ways around their front line.
So you say that they don't want to have one-directional fights. Is that because they don't know that they're beautiful? Is that where we're going with this one? Or?
You did not. No.
I actually went to school with Louis from One Direction.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I watched far too much Rock and Battle listening growing up. I did not really vibe with that. I don't know any of the members.
Not my favorite music.
Sane one of the members? Was that the guy that left?
I could not tell you. I just know Louis because...
Do I know? I'm now going to claim that I now know more about One Direction than you do because I know that fact.
You know what? That's a claim that I'm happy for you to have. I'm not going to contest that one.
I needed that today.
It's a small win. Is it a win? Are we calling that a win? I'm not so sure.
I'll get back to you on that one. Get back to you. But the One Direction of these team fights, as we said, works in the way of JDG. Because if you're playing into a Sion who's got the Jack Show, who's got the Sunfire Cape, he's not behind the game. That works so well for them. Because when you're dealing with that as a Lucian, who doesn't have anything like a Lord Dominus Regards coming out, you're stopped up for a Dirk, which puts you behind that build as well. You've basically gone into that Dirk to say, I want 1 to 2 item out power spike. This is your power spike, and you're still not killing the Sion. You are very far behind a point where you can actually kill the Sion at this point. So JDG, why would they take fights away from 369? He's going to give all of the platform available to his AD carry and his mid laner to do the damage they need to.
Now JDG full vision control of the Baron area. It's an engage from Missing, and Ruler dives in with the Gale Force as well. Missing low. Oh, the roots come out from Ruler though. The Zaya's online as he looks for Mako, but chased down now. Cyclone to knock up JJ, but they're winning out the fight. Fofo surviving as Kanavi finishes him off. Leaves chance to shine. His chance to step up as Kanavi chases him down. But here's 369. The choo-choo train rolls into the station, and 369 is feeling fine.
They are, but he was there way too late. JDG, they need to play around the Scion, who was on the side lane. Still take the fight anyway. They walk away with a slim victory, 4 for 3. Now Ala's going to walk on tonight.
Oh, he gets it! Flashes over the wall, but Ala answers it. 1 for 1.
1 for 1. Messy fight. Well, I guess if you were waiting for that action, there you go. We get something exploding around that mid lane, but JDG will have to impress again. Really not sure that was the fight that they wanted. It's still a slim victory for them, I suppose. Maybe with that last kill on tonight, the shutdown coming through, and also losing that flash, you have to revisit that. But this is a very explosive fight. It's great when you're fighting into feathers in the corridor, but with kind of Ruler using his ult so early and then committing so heavily for the Nami, who's like 200 HP over the wall, really feels like an overcommittal from Ruler. Needs to play very responsibly with his lead. Despite 369 being able to join this play, the damage is already done. You've lost your bot lane. They're playing away from him. Now they're finally joining up their AD carry with their top laner. This looks better for them.
JJ's here. This could be a 50-50. This is not a good situation for JJ. Forced away by 369. They're just going to take the Baron. EDG caught with the pants down. And now Fofo knocked up by 369. Scat of the Week is there as well. Fofo gets a shield. Oh, but Knight Sonya's against the ultimate. JJ trying to survive. Knight will do so. No, taken down in the end. Kanavi in the middle of everyone as JJ falls and the rest of the team charging in. Ruler with a double kill, and JDG want to find more. Do they have the engage? Kanavi trying to close the gap is missing. Looks for his knock-up, looks for his moment. Ruler with the unofficial triple kill. They got the Baron, and they got plenty more on top.
Look at this fight. Look at the last fight. Look at this fight again. 369 is ruling this game. Of course, his Ruler in the bot lane has so much more ability to fight through these one-directional, fight behind your front line kind of affairs when the Scion is there. JDG, they take the Baron, they take themselves to one fight. Yes, they lose Knight in the process of it, but the frontline difference is far too much. This Scion was something that we were afraid of for EDG, playing against it after the first game. They let it through again. 369 is ruining the game for EDG yet again, because you look at how Fofo has to give his life for just one turnaround kill, and that's most of your damage they're gone after that point. EDG, they are really struggling to win these 5v5s.
Certainly are. Feels like Ala and Fofo against the world here because, you know, Fofo in the previous fight, his stun was really what set everything up. That time managing to trade out Knight, managed to put pressure on. And just not able to do much more than that. How much more can you do when you're this far behind? I mean, it's a 7,500 gold lead almost. And now Ruler will be able to just take this Drake by himself. That'll be the 3rd Drake in a row for JDG. And they've already taken bot and mid tier 2s. They can just start to look towards inhib. Still a minute on the Baron. They've not really done that much Baroning so far. Or maybe they did during the replays. Big stuns coming across. I don't think it'll lead to an actual fight for now.
Looking, they're sieging. Again, 369 is here. Very easy to engage for JDG.
I was wrong. JJ engaged on Kanavi, low on HP, but escapes with his life. 369 bubble, caught in the baby cage. Missing low, but escapes the culling. 369 is tanking forever and still walks away as Ruler dives in with a Gale Force and finds one for himself. The mid inhib is down. There is a cannon minion, but because of the Baron, it won't actually tank the towers for them. It won't get rid of the backdoor debuff. Ala wants to get in. Ruler is low on HP right now. The Feather Storm is out. Ala forced away. And now another minion wave is there. JDG, 15 seconds of Baron buff to work with. They need to take these towers down fast. Ruler is there, hammering away. EDG, desperate to hold on in this series, but another pick goes the way of JDG. The stuns are there. Ala forced back onto Fountain and taken out of the picture. 369 slamming it down. 20-8 at 28 minutes. JDG go up 2-0.
What a top lane performance from 369. First 2 games, it's on the Scion. We've talked about how the LPL, it feels like the top teams in the LPL, it has been determined a lot about their performance of their top laner. Most of the time, we've meant that in terms of Jax games, in terms of Kennen games, in terms of something like Cassante as well. The Sion in this series is now, I think, a must-avoid pick for EDG. I don't think you can allow 369 to have this. It has had far too much ability to stop Leave having any impact on the game. That's another conversation. Leave has also had a very difficult first 2 games so far. But that top laner for JDG, incredible performance in 2 games.
Yeah, 369, just give him Sion, and he will absolutely cruise through this series. I can't believe it's 2-0 to JDG. I was so sure. After game number 1, I was like, okay, EDG, rough first game, some things to work on there. But game number 2 will look different. And it was a very different draft, but still not able to make things happen. Not able to have that same impact in the early game that we were hoping to see, especially with that Lucian army. And I mean, the fact that Ruler got so far ahead so early on in the game, I feel like that kind of murdered EDG's win conditions.
And the reason he could get ahead was, 1, Kanavi, Red, JJ. Part of it was reading the mistakes from EDG's bot lane as well. But when Leave walks up to that bush a little bit too soon, after he's lost his flash already, gets dunked on, and then the Sion comes down and dunks on him again, that's the Lucian army effectively out of the game. They are way behind where they need to be. Never even got to a last Whisper item in that game. So the Sion never had to be worried, really, about the Lucian's impact on him. Ruler had an insane game yet again. It feels like we've seen this from Elk as well, where you look at the damage coming through from the AD carry, but the story behind that is a supporting cast of big moments to set that AD carry up for success.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Ruler playing on a knife's edge in a lot of these fights, like flashing over the Raptor pit to try and individually win that fight. Like, I think a lot of people will criticize that fight individually for being aggressive in that moment. But being aggressive in the right moments is what separates good from great AD carries. And I think Ruler today, like, looking absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, because the thing about Ruler is that actually, so I'm going to take that back a little bit when I said historically he's always done that. Historically, he's played on the knife's edge in terms of playing the safest but most effectively he could possibly be. We might have given him something a little bit new from the LPL in regards to just going over the wall and trying to win fights on his own. That's been something he's done in Spring a bit more for himself. And in that one fight, it did feel like as though that was a little bit too far. But the fact that he feels confident enough to do that, for me, I'm very excited to see what Ruler can do with that new stage of play as well, when he has been given so many resources, when he has been doing so much damage.
Huh. Knight did the most damage. I was literally about to say it felt like Knight actually had quite a quiet game on this intro. I guess he wasn't getting the kills, but I mean, during these fights, he was obviously doing a lot.
How much of that game was the one shot onto Leave in the around the Nexus, but it's just a blink and you miss it. Leave is gone. Knight has removed him from the game. Did feel like Knight later into the game, it did feel like a couple of those big ultimates came through, which probably were the majority of that damage coming from that. Of course, earlier into the game, Fofo, it felt like was having a decent impact. Got the solo kill onto him for EDG's very first kill of the game. And Fofo on this Veigar has had some power, but it has felt like it's really the bot side of the map, the bot lane, and JJ who've been leaving a lot to be desired in terms of their ability to fight early into the game.
Phenomenal stuff. And honestly, I'm kind of knocked for 10 here. Like, I'm not really sure where to go from here, because JDG...
New cricket roll, knock for 10. We unlocked a new rule.
just roll with it, roll with it. I don't know cricket. It's I couldn't remember the actual phrase, but like JDG versus BLG versus JDG today, 2 very different teams. And I'm excited. If this JDG shows up for finals, I don't know if anyone can take them out. We'll have to see if they can finish this series off, because EDG is certainly a team that you can never count out. We'll find out what's going to happen right after the break.
Knock for 6.
워낙에 세서 도란도 계속 봐요. 도란도 계속 봐요. 도란이 제일 컸는데 이거 잡아야 되는데 근데 정말 안 되면 도란이 없어지는데요. 아페리 프리딜이에요. 아페리가 터지는데 한번 나가리까지 이러면 달려들어가 누굴 때려요. 때릴 사람이 없습니다. 젠지에게 힘이 조금씩 빠지고 있습니다. 와 그런데 페이지가 내려서 남아있는 구마이스가 넣었어요. 그리고 남아있는 선수가 없습니다. 이렇게 에이스 시를 해줍니다. 이렇게 넥서스가 파괴가 됩니다.
Tell me what I gotta be to make you believe everything that's inside of me. Inside of me is inside of me you don't wanna meet. And I can promise I'm a pride on my enemy.
先找这个了，这个大招已经被打出来的情况下，你撒出来撒的效果还不错。猴子直接一波反进场找佩佩高，但是自己身上立刻被套了一手虚弱。小天二郎天空先找下佩佩高的离仓装，2度进场嘛，但是被打到太难。万雷天老爷，天雷杀机再次站了出来，Rookie 要被2
二段踢给踢死，
爆炸了
正面已经成溃败之势。虽然说猴子换掉了一个，但是又是个回旋踢，再接上稳稳的垂直钩子和恶意中摆，由狐狸收获 triple kill。
这波完美的一个开团，直接。
Okay, folks, I'm back and reloaded. If this one doesn't blow, well, I'm coming back with explosives.
Buki ready, River ultimate on the Maokai.
He's looking for the angle.
They know he has no vision.
River.
They know they have no vision. He wants to go.
Multiple control. There he goes. Hui with the play and the jump in to follow. It's burned HP bars for EG. They ain't got no FBI to hold up the mantle for them. Licorice getting the kill onto Vulcan and JoJo zoned out. Golden Guardians clean, clean, clean.
Every amp on the planet still isn't matching my voltage. Yo, this cat is the coldest. I need a plaque that was golden. I really have to be goaded. You getting left in this show.
아니면서 상대방이 못 참게끔 벌을 하는 소리예요. 스킬 하나 뺐죠. 이렇게 스킬 하나 뺀 거고. 안 빼요. 들어왔죠. 뺀거가. 대답이요. 그다음 번째 돼요. 아펠이 때립니다. 구마유 씨가. 그런데 초대박 구마유 씨가 지금 초대박인데요. 그리고 살았어요. 구마유 씨가. 와. 그래서 이거는. 이건 구마유 씨.
Seriously, no, I'm kidding. Practically joking. It's totally random. Like this man doesn't have any motive.
这边骚扰，那就像刚讲的，他不能被飞爱锁到头，而且这波是被锁到头之后呢，旁边是完全没有队友能保他的。
来看一下勾到一个救急电话，给到的是塞恩一个举到，但是侧面的位置均加直接绕后把艾特给秒杀，再一个巨幅毁灭大光 Q 给到他，再举到一个 triple Q 给到均加，再一棒，大家夸奖，Penta 就在眼前，均加，均加还在追，
帮忙缓一下，
过来想缓到 Penta Q。
And I really have to be goaded. You getting left in this show. I need you to prepare yourself for what's about to happen.
Vai dar não. Não vai ter como. Não tem ult, não tem flash, não tem ult, não tem nada. É dragão na mão do time da Red. FNB! Pega que é ladrão!
Different energies I bring, only sickness I fling. Bad like Gustavo, Fring can't try not a ting. Flyboy, I got the wings, and they can't keep up with me, dog. That's why all that I bring is wins. And they wanna hold me back, never doubt I'm a king. When they grab Mike and a chap on the ting, I don't wanna hear no talk from jokers. Say you got waves, I'll split that like Moses. The way that I catch it is flawless, it's awkward, cause they can't do it when they talk up. I don't wanna hear that ever. Stay on the ground like Cellar, they know man shell off. Feel man trying to get ahead of me. They should've known they ain't really got the energy. I got the energy. Run laps and laps round them, they ain't even got no energy. So that means no power. They don't wanna be my enemy. That might end up in a penalty. I got a different energy, no matter what I encounter. No, I got the energy. Run laps and laps round them, they ain't even got no energy. So that means no power. They don't wanna be my enemy. That might end up in a penalty. I got a different energy, no matter what I encounter. No, I got the energies. I got the energies. I got the energy. Run laps and laps round them, they ain't even got no energy. So that means no power. They don't wanna be my enemy. That might end up in a penalty. I got a different energy, no matter what I encounter. No, I got the energy. Run laps and laps round them, they ain't even got no energy. So that means no power. They don't wanna be my enemy. That might end up in a penalty. I got a different energy, no matter what I encounter. No, I got the energy. They ain't even got no energy. They don't wanna be my enemy. I got a different energy. I got a different energy.
So I got my education in the old school, surfing on a wave and playing by my own rules. Come on, let's take this downtown. Wake me up till the sun
对阵阿乐选手的话，我觉得阿乐去了 EDG 以后打得越来越好了，然后希望和他是一个精彩的对决。我觉得季后赛的话，可能是经验上的东西比较重要吧，然后调整能力之类的。希望队友打得越来越好，然后一起拿一个冠军。我们常规赛输给你们了，然后等着我们这次来复仇吧，清算你们。
Welcome back, everybody, to the upper bracket finals here at the LPL. And, you know, it's been an interesting start to things. 2-0 for JDG as they look absolutely dominant. And EDG, once again, Nymera going for the blue side here. And, you know, it's not worked twice for them, but clearly not preferring the red. Clearly wanting, believing that first pick is everything.
You may have heard the phrase, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it's broke, please fix it, EDG. This first pick Jax, it ain't doing it for us. It ain't doing it for their team either. And it does feel like this frontline difference in this top side makes it even harder to play through a bot lane, which is finding itself further behind in mid game. EDG going towards blue side again. I hope they come away with a different philosophy for draft 3.
We'll have to see. Our MVP for game number 2, though, Kanavi. And like you said before the break, absolutely reading JJ during the early game. It felt like he was completely in control of the game. But then during those team fights as well, just causing so much mayhem with Cyclones. It makes it so difficult to play out.
Yeah, it was an overall performance. Very strong from Kanavi in the early game to put that bot lane of EDG behind. He really read JJ, which I think, in my mind, I didn't expect that. I felt like JJ has typically got the read on enemy junglers very, very well. Did it against Kanavi in the regular season when EDG 2-0'd them. Now they're set now 2-0 against JDG with stuff like this happening. With Kanavi immediately just donking down on this bot lane time and time again, and making the game very hard for EDG to play.
I mean, the fact that 369 got such an early roam down and then JJ getting caught out here again, like Kanavi, it was all focused around this bottom side and a little bit around just trying to bully Lee, trying to not let this Lucian army get ahead. Knight just completely disrespecting the duo in this one and actually got away with it as well.
That's on his press tab, seen that the enemy bot lane is, you know, like 0 and 4 combined and says, I can take that, I'm a mid laner, I'm a Cinder, and he absolutely blows them up. And now, you know, you look at Ruler finishing this game, you know, with 10, 11 kills or whatever. I think it ended up being 10 at the end of there. Absolutely insane performance from there. Kanavi, of course, walks away with the MVP. But the fact that you can make those early plays and then have someone like Ruler in the back pocket to absolutely smash through these mid and late games is incredibly powerful. And it's why JDG are now sat at such a strong point and looking like they're going to run away with this series.
Yep, spirits high across the board here. Side JDG, whereas EDG now against the Rogues. And I will say, if there's a coaching staff I believe in, it's Kenju. This guy, a storied coach. He's won Worlds, he's won MSI. Like, this guy has certainly made it happen with teams before, and he's been in charge of this rebuild of EDG that we've had so much faith in, that I think a lot of people had faith in to the point of calling EDG a favorite today. I certainly did, especially after JDG's most recent series. But can they come back in a series is the question. You know, it's a matter of taking it game by game, still sticking with that blue side. We'll see what they've come up with. Surely it has to be a dramatic change in the draft. You've got to believe it.
I'd really hope so. I mean, we're seeing blue side Annie-ban from ADG as well, which has been quite a powerful pick for them before. I wonder if that could be flexed between Fofo.
Did you see his eyebrows?
I was actually looking at my notes on the side.
Surprised to be on the camera, sorry.
I was looking at myself like, what can they pick? What can they flex pick? I do think that Annie is maybe something which EDG... Nope, it's gone. Okay, we'll forget about that one. Since that the Rakan being banned away from EDG, so removing one of Missing's biggest playmakers, played that to great effect in this series so far. On the other side, though, JDG very happy to remove a lot of the bans they've done so far. That cannon was something that was put on blue side ban. And now the fact that JDG have banned that red side cannon makes you wonder why EDG were banning it on that blue side at all and making their life a little bit harder if that didn't have to be banned by them on the priority blue side.
Feels like a tough one. Vi going to be locked in here for JJ. First five we've seen today. But can it have an impact? Can that be the first pick that's going to save the day for them? We'll have to wait and see. As Xayah still available, but without the Rakan there, feels like JDG want to change their tune and go towards this Aphelios, which really has become one of the dominant AD carries in the current meta. But still, I feel like every single time I talk about Hover for JDG, they change their minds. And it will be the Ari for Knight.
I'm surprised they haven't just slammed in Gragas. Gragas for 369 has been absolutely disgusting. JDG also played Gragas in the jungle as well for Kanavi. It's a bit more niche, but would have been very, very powerful. Instead, they pick away the choice combo from Vi. Ari is good with and against Vi, because if Vi ever ults, you just kind of ult and flashed out of the play, which pulls the enemy jungler out of position. Makes it very hard to play through that combo. And then, as you said, without the Rakan on the table, Xayah Rakan is not available, and it reduces the power of that bot lane. The LPL bot lane meta has typically been, I know we saw that Lucian Nami, but it has typically been Zeri with Zeri Lulu, it's been Xayah Rakan, and then been something like Aphelios Lulu as well. That's been another thing which has been very powerful for them. Looks like we are going to be heading into another Aphelios versus Xayah. Last time we saw this from EDG, it was the Xayah Lulu picked out, and it did very well in the laning phase, which of course they didn't do very well with in Game 2, but it's not going to be support. Fofo picks up his Akali.
Okay, bit of aggression coming out in the mid lane for Fofo. Wants to scrap. No more Veigar, no more slow gameplay here. Wants to get into these fights. Potentially a jungler could be locked in here for JDG. I want to just quickly mention, it might get banned in this next phase. It might not come out, but the Fiora was banned both previous games by JDG. They swapped that for the Kennen ban. It does make it a bit more difficult to pick the Sion if that Fiora makes it through this next round of bans. Yeah. And there is the Fiora ban.
When you see the Malphite, as much as you think, so Fiora is an anti-tank champion, still doesn't really like playing into Malphite because of all of the armor stacking and his ability to just going to wail on you in return. So that was banned in the first round. JDG not content to let Ale have that Fiora again. Wonder if they're going to put another ban towards that top side. The thing is, for me, when you are first picking for a player like Ale, you're not using his champion pool to its full extent. I prefer the fact that even though he's eating up a load of bans now, Ale has one of the largest champion pools within the LPL. He's had a lot of different counter picks. You know, he even played like a Vladimir top game, which is a very rare appearance from that champion in modern League of Legends. I'm glad that EDG are giving a bit more burden to Ale to just say, look, pick something later into the draft. We trust you have the champion pool for it.
So the Lulu being banned away is an interesting one. JDG could have took this for themselves, but perhaps going to be looking towards something like a Nautilus maybe in the bottom side, something where they can have hard engage themselves. Not wanting to play against that Lulu. We'll have to wait and see what they do end up going for. And what EDG decides to ban with a Tahm Kench ban? Could you ban the Thresh potentially? Yeah.
There you go.
Deciding that they want to get rid of the supports that will be able to defend an Aphelios. I mean, the Renata certainly ticks that box.
And it does. Aphelios Renata ruled last spring. This time last year, Aphelios Renata was incredibly powerful because you have strong laning phase. Renata is kind of halfway between something that's a little bit tankier, very strong at early levels with the shield from the loyalty program, the little missile with the shield attached to it, and then something like a Guardian as well. So she becomes very tanky, does a lot of damage, and then later into the game provides a lot of disengage from diving champions, like a Vi, like an Akali. And even if you're the Xayah stood in the backline, you need to trade ult for ult against a Renata. You can't allow that hostile takeover to allow you to start throwing those feathers into your own team as well. EDG now, they've gone through the whole draft, and they're hovering that Gragas. We'll talk about that a little bit later. It's the Blitzcrank coming through, because despite Renata being a strong and fairly tanky early game champion, you are still very pickable. You're still very easy to get picked off by something like that Blitzcrank hook.
You certainly are. I feel like Blitzcrank has been like the pocket pick of a few supports across the course of this year in the LPL. Can really change a bottom lane, and Mako stepping forward with that classic pick. Now EDG, they want to take the Sion away in the top side. So 369, you've been cruising in the top lane. You've had the Sion. You've been able to answer the Jax. What do you have up your sleeve to answer the Sion instead?
I was wondering if it was going to be the Gragas. The Cassante would also be fairly important in some ways, because what the Cassante does, it can allow you to remove the Sion from the front line just by ulting him over a wall or something like that. One of the problems which EDG had with JDG's Sion was the fact that they couldn't get rid of him. They couldn't get past him. Potentially 369 could do that with that champion. So full compositions locked in. Feels like JDG, they've once again have themselves a strong position for Ruler to have people going in ahead of him, healing for him, and to do lots of damage in these team fights. Knight, of course, in game one, picked up the Magi's on the Ari, much to my pleasure, and had a really good snowball performance on that too. But it's not like EDG this time don't have tools to contest that. They have a front line. They have a lot more engage as well. Maybe that will put them on even keel.
They certainly have ways to be proactive, and that is the biggest thing I feel like these early games are going to be down to, right? With the way these two teams have been playing, it's all about finding those advantages and snowballing at home. So far, JDG have been doing a monumental job of exactly that, dominating in game number 2. Game number 1, bit harder fought, but then wrestling the lead away and running away with things. And as you said, that was Knight on Izari, grabbing an MVP. We'll see if JDG can tie a bow on this series in what would be a truly surprising result, a 3-0 if they could finish it off. But EDG, like you say, much more in terms of early game tools available to them. Let's see if they can scrap with the very best.
We'll be discovering who the very best are, of course, when the winner of this series goes against the winner of, well, I suppose, BLG and the other team who won't be making it directly to the finals in our finals. Our very last match of LPL Spring just around the corner. Looking at that in the future, of course, anyone who gets to those finals will go to MSI. Either way, we're going to have a new team from the LPL at MSI because there are 2 representatives from this region this time around. Wouldn't be new if EDG were there, but if they are going to qualify from this series, it will have to be a reverse sweep.
Yeah, that would be tough. And Mako, like we said before, in the first ever MSI, first international tournament for the LPL as well. But can he make it back again? Because he's 1 game away from being knocked into the lower bracket by JDG here. He'd have to fight his way through BLG, which has to be said, BLG giving a much more convincing series to JDG in our quarterfinals than what we're seeing from EDG so far today. But there's still time. This is why we have best of 5s, right? So you have your opportunity to prove yourself. Now is the moment for EDG. Let's look at our junglers, though. JJ and Kanavi both starting on the top side, pathing towards that bottom lane, which feels like a theme today.
It has been, because it feels like, so against OMG for EDG as well, when they beat down that team in the series just before that, a lot of how JJ and crew found their advantages was by getting into OMG's bot lane early. That's been the case for JDG, actually, in Game 2. Game 1, it was, of course, a little bit more back and forth. It felt like EDG had themselves more success there. Early trading in this top side. I want to quickly hover over what's going to happen with this mid lane as well. You can see Hook missing in that bot lane, giving me enough time to finish this point, which is very kind of these teams. Knights picked up the first strike. What we see with first strike is very important if you are killing the front line. If you go for something like Leandry's, it increases your first strike burn damage as well from that Leandry. So if JDG play around Renata or play around peeling back away from the Scion in a way that EDG couldn't do in that last game, there's a chance that Knight could be adding a bit more damage to that champion as well.
This is his first, Mako's first game of Blitzcrank or the split for the year, because they are apparently the same thing. We'll see how he's going to do on it. Look at that, though. Ruler 7-0, missing 3-0. These guys know exactly what they're doing on this defensive lane. This ability, well, I say defensive lane, honestly. It can be quite oppressive, but fundamentally, the way you think of both Renata and Aphelios is sort of defensive champ.
They stand their ground, I think is the way that I would phrase it, right? Well, they sit there, and if you ever come into them, they don't feel they're defensive in the way that if you're trying to eat a porcupine, you're going to get absolutely stabbed through the throat with all of its spines. That kind of thing, right? Particularly when you get access to the minion wave as Aphelios and you get to keep yourself healed up with the Severum, get that healing, and of course someone like Missing can fire through the wave in a way that Blitzcrank can't with the little missiles, the Wilt program. That's where things get a little bit dangerous for that. You need to be very careful when you're not on that minion wave, of course, when Mako on that Blitzcrank showing us to the class what you can do with that champion, threatening that, but a couple of hooks missing means that Ruler and Missing get themselves control of the lane.
And it's the kind of dichotomy of Blitzcrank, right, where when you've got Hook available, you offer threat. You are scary to deal with, and the enemy has to respect you. The second that Hook is on cooldown, you don't exist anymore. You are basically non-existent in the lane. So if you miss the Hook, all of your threat vanishes. You lose control. JJ, though, wants to find control up in this top side. 369 using the Ghost. And once again, we see this top lane island being played around. Just ring around the roses.
We see like one gank into top lane every game. It's kind of been the top lane thing when you've got the Scion up there. It feels like a side quest where you're sat there going, oh, maybe we can progress the main story of the bot lane AD carries just a little bit later. See if you can get yourself a bit more loot from that top side. But in this game, not going to be available. Hook finally lands in bot lane.
Oh, it's a root. No, flash out from Missing to keep himself alive. Leave taking a heavy trade in return. I feel like it's fairly even overall.
So one of the reasons for that, when you have Conqueror on Aphelios and you have Severum, your Spark starts spinning around with that active, it stacks up Severum and Conqueror really, really quickly. So Leave gets a whole load of damage coming in from the Aphelios through that. Now he doesn't have that weapon. HP bar's a little lower. Maybe the next hook will determine things. Kanavi coming back for a try onto Ala.
Yeah, this is a big minion wave that 369 will lose. No. He's going to force the flash, return to that wave. I was going to say, they need that kill if he's going to lose all those minions.
Yeah.
We'll be able to get them in the end. Fofo just cleaning the wave up. Knight, I nearly called him Ari, is nearly level 6 at this point. You'd expect Fofo to get it off of this wave as well. And that's going to be a huge moment now where both mid laners can start to have much bigger impact on the rest of the map.
Yeah, and we're getting into the point where first ultimates of the game start to come into fruition as well. We've seen, of course, top laners lose both a summoner apiece now, as both junglers made a trip up there. Knight and Fofo have to see now, really, who's going to get first move on the map. You assume it's always going to be the Ari, unless there's some wave control from Akali. Really kind of getting the edge off their opponent. You can see that Knight using the dematerializers onto the backline. When you do that as Ari, you can actually clear backline from level 7 with your Q. Used to be level 9, but when you have dematerializers, it makes it a much more different. But now you've actually got this point, which is a little bit awkward, because Fofo can just hold this wave in front of his tower, with the Blitzcrank around the corner as well. It means that Knight needs to play a little more respectfully, doesn't want to let this wave die outside of the turret as well. It means that he isn't in River, which means EDG can look for something.
Kanavi just jumping into Mako's face saying, hey, you can't pull me if I'm already next to you. The whole gang is here from JDG. JJ flashed on by Kanavi as JDG won a third here. Fofo forced underneath the mid lane, and it splashes out from JDG to find all three. A hat trick to kick off the third game.
Wonderful early skirmish from JDG, despite EDG having more tools to play around. Something like the very first Akali ultimate of the game, have some skirmishing in their own right. JDG find the angle, they find the kills, they find themselves the early gold lead from that, and EDG staring down another early game after game 2, which has gone against them. I was wondering what was going to happen with this fight. It felt like maybe Knight was going to be a little slower to the play because, of course, he has to deal with that wave in mid lane, but it's not really acted on early enough from EDG. They go into River a little bit half-heartedly, but they don't have their AD carry there. Ruler has his utility weapons as well, gets a route to ensure that JJ can't escape from that play. Knight starts getting reset. Sadly, doesn't have a Dark Seal for this fight. He's not going to get any extra rally from that, but the extra golden pocket for all members of JDG if present at that fight is not going to be in it.
Oh, another fight on the bottom side, Missing in trouble, but Ruler, he's got his shurikens and he ain't afraid to fight as Kanavi's moving over as well. He's level 6 on the Wukong. Can he close the gap? Doesn't even need to close the gap as Ruler nearly finishes Mako off. That was terrifying.
Oh, man. Before you're level 6, actually, when you're fighting on a minion wave, Infernum, that AoE weapon, can stack up chakrams really well. You see that right there? Uses that Q across the wave. Each minion you hit gives you a chakram. You do that, and suddenly you run at Mako without a flash. That's a lot of extra damage from those chakrams. We can switch over to them. Ruler, good weapons for the job, pushes out bot lane. That one bot lane trade allows JDG to get towards this dragon. And now they're going to get themselves that first dragon of the game. So EDG losing early fights, losing early objectives, not using their early skirmishing to its potential right now. JDG crushing the early game.
And look at the gold lead. It's 3,000 at 8 minutes. JDG are decimating EDG. And I just want to mention as well, look at the scoreboard. Look how neat that is. 102 across 3 players and then 0-0-3 for Missing. That is just, I don't know, something very pleasing to look at right there. It's 369 trying it out onto Ala as well. They're all out at the top side immediately, though, answered by Ala's own ultimate. Can he finish the job? Yes! 369 just rolling 9 today, winning on the Scion and winning against the Scion.
Did Ala just cancel his own ultimate? Did he cancel that? It felt like he dropped that early. He didn't get out of range of 369, who was waiting for that, you know, the stacked up Tofo strikes. Suddenly, 369 gets his own lead in that top side in such a strange fashion. EDG find themselves at a loss across the board to JDG.
Ala going full cage roll there because he's cancelled it. Ruler. That's like the lowest tagged fruit available.
I was saying, wow, catching strays, that doesn't feel fair.
I mean, look, he's got more mileage out of that joke than I think I've ever seen anyone get.
Yeah. Well, Ala didn't get mileage out of this, right? Because this is what happens to the 1v1. When you prop that ult, I mean, why does he cancel it? Why does he stop?
That was definitely just
He thinks he's safe, but he's just not. Complete misread from Ala, who up until this point, have been having such a good playoffs, having such a good spring split. And EDG, this team we've come to expect so much from in terms of stability, in terms of team play, falling apart before they can even reach mid-game, where they found so many of their successes historically in the split.
EDG start the Herald off, but there's no way JDG are letting that happen. I just want to quick point out, Knight, double the level of Mako. If Mako ever hooks Knight, he might just die from the W alone at this point. Like, he's so weak comparatively. You see an attempted all-in from Fofo there onto Knight. Must have been happening during the replay. 369 back up to the top side, once again has the XP advantage. Doesn't just try and brute force things, despite the fact he does have that mythic advantage. First mythic of the game up there in the top lane. But I mean, like, where do we go from here for EDG? Because, like, I'm struggling to see the win conditions when you fall behind with this kind of composition, but equally, I feel like EDG is a team that we shouldn't discount. We should never count this squad out, but JDG just look on a different level today.
They do, on an individual level, and then also with their read in the early game as well. See that, the first mythic of the game being put to great use by 369 against Starlo on the top side. You're really looking for someone to step out of position from JDG. Maybe EDG can get themselves a pocket of vision, get a Blitzcrank hook, get a Vi ult, and then Akali can knock them down. The problem I've got with that is that because you are now losing so many lanes, because you're losing in this top side as well, getting that vision in the first place to get those picks is really hard, because you're not winning side lanes. You're not getting entrance into the enemy jungle. As you can see, got this big join up in this mid lane. And as it stands, again, Knight getting great damage. Salt boots early as well. More damage from the Ahri rather than something like cooldown reduction. Means those odd charms, those odd Qs that connect, going to chunk people out. So EDG, as much as they're looking for picks, how do they even make that happen then?
Question. And I mean, 369, he's having a great series for himself, but it's not just about 369 versus Ala. This is EDG's drafting versus JDG's, where we've seen 369 have counterpick every single game, and obviously using them very effectively. Fantastic stuff out from the individual player, but I think this can just be put on Ala here as missing dodges yet another hook. Gravitum is there. That's going to be a long-range crescendo as well. So now the Cyclone comes out from Kanavi, looking for Mako, taking him down. A handshake isn't available, as all out in the top side as well. Ala's in trouble once again. I don't think 369 can dive.
Can't dive, but he just chunks him out so much that Ala just has to sit away from the wave yet again. Can't do anything in this individual matchup, and nor can EDG, it seems, in the series, do anything about the 3v3 bot side. Kanavi has absolutely brutalized Leave and Mako at every opportunity. Sometimes it's starting in the 2v2, sometimes it's starting from Kanavi getting his own look into things as well, but JDG seriously getting the read in the early game. See what happened in the picture-in-picture in terms of 1v1 there, but Fofo using the ult to try and push Knight back, not getting enough damage from it, not able to stop him from getting himself wave push as well. He's completed his mythic, has gone for the Everfrost, which is fairly nice against the Akali, who's hyper-mobile and can hide out in that shroud, but Fofo really struggling to control this lane.
Certainly is. A hard time of it. Surprising against Knight Sari, especially with how Knight has been playing today. That Herald, though, a third of its duration remaining. I'm curious where Kanavi's going to go. Looks like it might be mid lane, because he's already there. Not sure if he's actually placed the Herald there. Yeah, he has. In fact, off screen. It's 369 duking it out with Ala. Dodges away from the ultimate. JJ's here, but there's just nothing he can do.
Nothing there. 369 doesn't have the all-out, so he can't get a huge turnaround play. Just pops the ghost, plays it safely. 369, one of the things which he's been doing really well this series has been playing weak side as well as he can. Uses the W.
JJ's tagging the tower.
No!
Oh, no! It's an absolute disaster for JJ. I think he's had such an incredible split, but today, feels like he's a different player.
It has been. It feels desperate. It feels like he's looking at all of these losing lanes and saying, what do I do? Where's the play to be made? He tries to go towards 369, but cool as a cucumber. 369 slices him up. Mako gets a hook.
Kanavi low on HP here, but the shield comes on through, though, and Leave can't finish the job. And now Leave caught in the wrong side of the play. Crooks will defend him from a charm from Knight there, so won't be CC'd up. And it looks like both teams will walk away from this one. Mako finally finding that hook. Ruler's got a dodge, but no, the minions save the day.
Looking for the hitbox snipe. Champion hitbox is a little bit more large than those minions. You can sometimes get some of those weird ones when it looks like you stood behind them. Not to be the case in this time, though. We're going to have to bid farewell to JJ in this replay again. misses the Vault Breaker Q. The W is already channeled from 369, which gives you that damage reduction. He uses the ult, uses the flash, doesn't get the kill, goes down. It is a disaster play, and as we're in replay, Leave dies again. Knight at least going to get shut
Knight's
down.
in trouble. It's an opportunity. It's a kill for Fofo. Very well done. JJ coming in at the last second. Realistically, that was all Fofo. 369 could be in trouble as well on the top side, but he'll get out with his life. And I think actually the top lane play, in the replay I noticed, Ala was trying to stand on the very edge of tower range. I think he accidentally moved out. I think he intended to tank longer. I'm not sure that was a JJ misplay. I think that might have been an Ala misplay.
Might have been a bit of both, I would suggest. I don't even know if they had the
Yeah,
damage to kill
possibly.
369 in the 1v1 under turret, especially after that Q missed. Either way, it feels like a bit of everyone not on the same page, not in the correct point to kind of fight these plays. Leave, sadly, once again, having an awkward moment. Knight discovers the interaction where you can't stop dashes with Evercross, so once that ult starts flying, not exactly disengaging. Fofo manages to really close down that target, importantly so. A little bit of gold over to Akali. Maybe there's the chance to now play around pick combos with the Akali as your centerpiece, but it is a slim win condition at that.
And that's not the first time since I started casting LPL that I've seen Knight punished for being a bit over-aggressive, for being a bit overconfident when none of his team are nearby. You know, back on Top Esports, when they were winning, that is a team that was well known for being overconfident. Knight being punished for trying to make plays while the rest of his team is over in the bottom side of the map. Now EDG grouping up, and Kanavi happy to just charge into the mix. JJ's already gone down. The hostile takeover pulls them all back in. Fofo the next target as Mako's already fallen, and the handshake pulls Fofo back into the play. In the meantime, Leave is taken out by 369. It's all going sideways for EDG. As JDG, this game is a victory lap.
It absolutely is. EDG, they try and position around this mid lane again, wait for a pick somehow, some way, but JDG, they pounce, they pull the trigger, and yet again in this series, JDG use their engage far better than EDG. Now waiting to see just everything fall apart.
Oh my days, Ala's actually going to die as well! They get a bonus and Ruler walks away somehow with his life. And look at the scoreboard right now. It is a 500 gold lead for every minute in the game in favor of JDG. That is absurd.
JDG utterly incredible when they find themselves with an early advantage. Because they can make plays like this. You can feel like the confidence building with this team for every gold that they pick up ahead of their opponent. Kanavi, maybe a player that can be criticized when he's behind, but when he has aggressive angles, when he's ahead of the game, what a playmaker he has been. This game has been even more dominant than the last games from JDG and crew. This has been the most dominant one. This is not getting better for EDG, and you know what? We come out of that replay. Knight is feeling it again. Second item, Medjai's looking to snowball.
Oh no, Leave caught again.
Four
and
more
just
stacks.
plowed down. Feels like JDG just rolling on through. And anyone who goes near gets taken apart. 369. I mean, Mako, you could hook him if you want. I'm not sure that's a fight you want to take. As Knight caught out here, Mako pulls him away, but he's actually pulled him away from the damage. Knight gets himself a bit of survival, but Fofo takes him down in the end. Perhaps the fight for EDG. There's a double for Fofo now. Is this the turnaround? Fofo trying to escape on the top side. Kanavi not going to chase it in the end, as the rest of the team is here. Ruler trying to get damage onto Ala, but he is tanky at this point. You can see they're struggling to get through that health bar. They will finally take him down. But again, JDG still in control of the game.
Still in control of the game, but they play into EDG's win condition, which is being off of vision and being able to find these skirmishes, which means that Knight picks up the book, immediately dies, loses all of his stacks. We'll hope that another fight goes his way soon after this point to spare those blushes. But JDG, maybe playing into EDG's composition a little more than they wanted to for one of the first times this series.
Yeah, big turnaround for EDG. Might just lead to a Drake. I'm not confident to say that until I see it actually go down. Because Bissing's in the area, Knight is here too. Navi wants to move over. Doesn't have Cyclone available. That's an Everfrost, and they will get themselves a Drake. Can he get away? Yes! JJ over the wall. They get the Drake and they get on out. That is a huge turnaround for EDG. A massive moment.
Yeah, it's an objective bounty. It stops the dragon stacking. JDG, though, they're going to continue to have... wait, can they kill this Herald just before the time's out? Don't have that long on it.
They've
Half a
got
minute,
20
two
seconds,
people there.
right?
Looks like they should be able to take this one down. I think it despawns around about 50. something like
So
1950,
I think it's
something
like
that.
it's 1930 if I think
It's
I could
not
be wrong
aggro,
on
yes,
exact.
if it's not leashed,
If it's
yeah.
not aggro, but then it's 1945 or something once it's aggro. So I think they should be able to do it. And there you go. You see the Herald in Kanavi's pocket. So just about in time for the Baron spawns. And getting it this late can be massive as well. Being able to use that Herald for pressure in a lane on the opposite side of the map to Baron, that can
Yes.
be huge.
Very, very true. And JDG, no shortage of pressure. 3-0 and 2 on the Cassante from 369 as well. JDG, kind of, it felt like most of the LPL top lane meta was about Cannon, but that's been banned the entire series. This top lane meta in this series has been about Sion, and JDG have been ahead of that meta.
Ala in trouble once again, knocked back here. 369 has so much damage to work with. The knockup isn't going to be enough. 369, 2 solo kills on Ala in this game. He is having a monster performance. Now EDG pinched in the mid lane as well, potentially, as Kanavi chasing down here. Lee's going to be in trouble. The Cyclone is there. JJ, ever frosted, tries to buy space for his team, but just taken down. Mako next, as they do answer jungle for jungle, but 369's here. Lee has nowhere to go, flashes over the wall. Now trying to chase down Mako in the meantime. 1 HP for him as Lee turns it around. He manages to get one into 2 for 2.
2 for 2, but EDG, they're still being pushed back. They're still not in a position. They might even get chased out at this point. Mako, without any teammates, without any friends, trying to teleport to the tower.
Is it in time?
No, it's
I
not.
mean-
Trying to teleport behind him, try to stop being executed. Does not manage to pick up that extra gold.
That is the most 369 TP I think I've ever seen. That was
I love that.
magnificent. But hey, at least Knight's got some
Somewhere-
stacks again.
It's like somewhere out there, Soaz is just nodding with respect. Just like, yes, I respect that play so much. The old wizard of the top lane. 369 has a level lead, has an item lead, has the winning matchup as well. Forces the Scion through the turret, judges the all-out distance very well. Can't drift his way away from that one. 369. I will admit it, I thought walking into this series, I thought Alec could be really running away with the top lane matchup. Top side, Fofo now caught out.
Oh, the charm lands, the Evercross lands. See you later, Fofo taken out of the picture, and that's Baron. Surely that's Baron. Realistically, what can EDG do? JJ could look for a miracle steal, but that's about it, and he's blast coning out of dodge. And, you know, back to that conversation top lane, like you said. Ala coming in, looking like the better top laner you would have thought on paper. But when you take away his cannon, when you answer his Jax with a counter pick, what can he do? Turns out not a lot. 369 owning the matchup today.
As JDG now really on the brink, more so than ever, reaching their first MSI ever. A new representative from the LPL towards that international tournament. JDG hungry for that international tournament.
Yeah, hard to make it to MSI when you've got Xiaohu on RNG, the Kings of Spring. But this time, Xiaohu left RNG. This time it's wide open. And JDG want to make it on over to London. Herald denied as now the engage comes out from EDG. The hostile takeover across the team. It's absolute carnage, but it's just a stat stick for JDG right now. This Knight still surviving, but with Ruler down, maybe this is a winnable fight. A great charm comes on through off the back of the all-out from 369. Another charm is there. And even if you take down the AD carry, it's just not enough to win these fights.
It's not somehow, someway, EDG find themselves in engage, which has been a rare phenomenon in this series, but is it enough for them? They have Leave, but what else is left?
Leave, the young prodigy, has had a hard series, needs to be the difference maker. He'll be able to clear enough for the waves. For EDG to hold on once more, they are still in this series.
Yeah, really good multi-person engage from both the Scion and the Vi. Leave gets a load of feathers across as well. This is as best case scenario as it gets, and still, it is scarily close. Even after the AD carry is down. 369, so much damage. Knight walks away with, I believe, 16 stacks out of this fight as well, despite getting shut down earlier. Power of a high kill participation.
That's insane.
Low, kind of like high safety, high kill participation champion means that this item gets so much value. Now, Knight very much ahead of the game yet again, picks up a sorcery elixir, ready to fight this dragon, ready to end this series.
I mean, 369 is already fighting as Kanavi finally arrives. 369 might have gone 2 team. He gets out, he survives, and now the Cyclone across the whole squad. The damage dealers are arriving. And this might be everything now as Kanavi keeps on pushing forwards with the rest of the team, not even with him. He doesn't need them. Knight finds a max range charm on Bobo. And JDG just decimating EDG here. Ruler finds a bonus kill. He's blast-coding towards the Akali. That's not how that works.
It's not how it works, but who cares at this point? Ruler, ready to take a new step towards another podium, another first place finish in another region.
For the first time ever, Jin Dong Gaming will make it to MSI, and they make it to the LPL finals once again, decimating EDG 3-0.
What a level of individual performance and team play from JDG. We phrase this as brain versus brawn, but it's a pretty high IQ over on their side as well. EDG left absolutely blown open, thrown to the winds, scattered about, and it looked like child's play for JDG. There was some early game worries in game one, but very quickly turned around after some skirmishes and some map play brought JDG into the thick of things. This is a team that has evolved past individual play. They have evolved past the point where they need to just win lanes. So if they do that, pretty damn strong as well. JDG feel like you can walk away very much more confident compared to their last match, where against BLG, they went the distance. EDG could not take a single gaming off of them, and now they have to face BLG in that losers final, ready to see who can qualify for the finals for another shot against JDG.
And you know, with that JDG BLG series being so close, in kind of a sketchy win for JDG, I feel like you've got to favor BLG in that lower bracket at this point. We'll have to see how that one is going to pan out. I'm excited to see that series. EDG backs against the ropes now as they go to the lower bracket. See Ruler very happy with his performance today, and rightly so. And I think the whole squad with JDG have had a magnificent day. You know, quite often out of a best of 5, you've got a couple of players that you're hoping for a bit more from and a couple of players that you're really pleased with how they've performed. I feel like across the board, JDG firing on absolutely all cylinders. And I just have to wonder, what is the difference between today versus when they played BLG? Like, what did they have for breakfast? Like, what did the routine change? Like, because this feels like a totally different team.
I think there are two things. I think one of it is around top lane meta in the draft. I think bot lane, on the whole, the picks kind of, they can give and take a lot of these points in power. 369 had such a more comfortable series. Arguably against BLG, he was top diffed every single game. They should have probably lost that game 5, but they hung on towards that late game. That's one of the differences. So I think the top lane meta did not work out as well for EDG as it did for Bin on BLG. The other thing is early game jungle read. JJ has been the best jungler in the LPL for the entirety of spring. It has felt like he had Tarzan kind of about the place as well. Kanavi, when he was ahead, looked like a wonderful playmaker. But when it came to the first plays of the game, the first ganks, the first entrance into lanes, JJ had a better read on enemy junglers than anyone else. But not this series. Kanavi, playing around his bot lane, playing around a bot lane 3v3, felt like he had the edge over JJ almost the entirety of this series, besides the first bit of game 1, it felt like. And that has been huge to stabilize that early game, remove one of EDG's most powerful weapons. Now, EDG, after this real blowout series against them, walk against BLG, who also had good early games, and have to think, what are they going to do?
Yeah, that is going to be the question, but JDG cruising into finals. I can't believe how one-sided the series has been, honestly.
Oh, incredible.
I'm genuinely shocked that it's only 12:30 where I'm at, and this series is already over. Like, just a monumental performance coming out from JDG. I'm glad to see them have such a great performance, right? I was just hoping for a little bit more from EDG as well, and I think especially Leave. I don't want to be too harsh on the guy. This is his rookie split at the end of the day, but it feels like JDG, to some extent, especially in game 2, kind of targeted Leave and said, look, we can just put pressure on this guy and we think he'll crumble. And, you know, removing the Zeri from the picture, putting a lot of focus. I mean, 369 literally ganking at level 6 in the bottom lane during game number 2. Feels like they're really focused on trying to get this rookie off a kill.
Thinking back to it, actually, in regular season, I wonder if there's a bit of a trend forming with this. When FPX beat EDG despite not making playoffs. Now, FPX are apparently those scrim gods and doing really well. They had a blitzcrank game where they upset Leave in laning phase and just said, hey, if we throw you early game questions, what have you got to answer things? Leave in particular had a couple of worries once he focused on his lane with a combo which maybe he wasn't as used to. Now, something like the FLS Renata, had a couple more games in pocket. You kind of know that one by now, but when you had the Sion dunking down in his lane and a bit more of an unorthodox play, I wonder if EDG need to start addressing this as well. If Leave is not comfortable in the early game, if he's being focused on, had the pressure on, we've seen now in multiple different scenarios, he's had a couple of question marks above his head.
He certainly has. Man is damnedest in the mid lane. I feel like Fofo had a decent series in general, but certainly so much he could do because Knight was just leaving the lane and taking over the rest of the map. Ruler, phenomenal stuff as the AD carry as well. And I mean, 369. Like multiple solo kills this game. His entire series, he's had the counter ping, and boy, has he used it effectively.
Hugely so. And then Knight walks away with, can I just say, both games of the RE had highest damage percentage on his team. If I hear that this champion doesn't do damage again, I'm going to find you, I'm going to have a chat with you, very calm conversation. Knight, I love the way that this guy plays Snowball mid laners. I love the way that he plays any mid laner, let's be honest. He has been such a stalwart within the LPL region, at least regionally. And now that he has the chance to go internationally again, he has an extra chance to kind of prove that he can go beyond just the boundaries of the LPL, just the boundaries of China, and show something internationally, where he's had some of those more questions before.
And that's always been the question for Knight, right? Like, can he perform when he gets to the international stage? And the best he's done so far is a world semi-final, but never made it to the final, never like been able to raise that trophy for himself internationally. He's done it domestically. He's been a star player domestically. Now he gets another opportunity to do exactly that. And this whole JDG squad, I'm sure, will be over the moon to have another shot at making it in an international tournament. I'm excited to see what they can do against teams like Gen G, for example, winning out LCK earlier on today. And through aggressive early games, I feel like we've got some baggers ahead of us when we get to MSI.
It's the question is open, and that's what I love, because as just a fan of competition, a fan of esports, a fan of League of Legends, you want there to be those kind of like those 50-50 scenarios where you have to do that mental gymnastics to just kind of say, okay, what's going to happen if XYZ happens? Explore the theoreticals, because when you have these teams showing weaknesses in other regions and showing strengths as well, you compare them here and you compare how the regional metas would come up, and you get some really interesting thought processes. I think JDG heading internationally, particularly with their individual strength and now evolving past that into, as we've seen, some really good early game performances. They're putting their name into the hat to have a really good showing if they can replicate this on an international stage.
Yeah, and again, there are still questions for JDG after the BLG series. And like, you know, what is the longevity of this kind of performance? Can you consistently pull that out of the bag? A lot of this, it feels like they had a really solid read on how EDG likes to play the game and on how to shut that down, especially with the counter pick on the top side, and being able to play out through the bottom lane the way that they have. The question is, can they repeat that? Do they have a read on BLG and how they play? If it's EDG in the finals again, I'm feeling good for JDG right now after today. But if it's BLG in that finals, can they have a similar read on their opponent? Can they bring out a similar level of performance? And these are questions that will be answered over the next sort of week or so. As is it a week? Yeah, it's within a week, our finals at this point. But
so
honestly,
focused on today, I'm just like, when's it next? It's on the 15th,
I'm like,
folks. I remember for my time.
Yeah, dates are hard. Dates are hard. 6 days away is our finals, but we've got one more series yet. That'll be EDG versus BLG. And honestly,
it's going to be so great.
I think it's such a tough one to call. I'm not even sure which team is the favorite going into that series because both have looked incredible previously.
It really depends on me, for me rather, on how Leave walks away from this series and whether they can just get Leave as a factor in the game. Because Elk, one of the things about Elk is that regardless of what you throw at him, he will always be a factor. We didn't see that same kind of thing from Leave today. And I don't want to dunk on a young prodigy AD carry who has obviously had a lot of things thrown at him. It's a very difficult series for him when the rest of the team also didn't have their best situations either. But the other thing will also be around this top lane matchup, Bin versus Ala, players which have typically gone towards players, huge champion pools. That could be the top lane meta deciding factor that could see a team into finals.
Yeah, and I'm sure Bin watching this series with glee when it comes to that top lane because it was 369 grabbing himself MVP off of solo killing Ala multiple times in this game. 6-0 and 8. Massive impact in the fights as well. I mean, you really could not have asked for more from 369.
Yeah. LPL top lane meta, I thought was centered around Kennen. Once that is banned away, this series, it was shown to be centered around Sion. And JDG and 369 were so far ahead of this Sion meta. They were better prepared for it, they had better answers to it, and a lot of the reason for that was because 369 absolutely trashed the Sion with the Cassante, and Ala, who we've come to expect many great things on. This was Ala's most played champion this split with that Sion. This was his 9th game of it, ahead of anything else. But it made him look like he was playing it for the first time on this stage. Cancels out his ultimate way too early in that first kill of the game. 369 toyed with the top side of the map.
This dive was a little bit tragic. I guess that counts as a solo kill as well, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
Yeah. Felt like he got some help from the turret there, but yeah, fantastic stuff coming out from him. And then these fights were just so scrappy. It's exactly what Cassante loves, like being able to dive in the middle of the scrap, just cause absolute chaos.
Yeah. Particularly when you get to kind of separate things out into actually 1v1s where the AD carry's not hitting you or getting that AD carry away from it as well. We saw that 369. It's quite often, in fact, heading towards leave and just saying, okay, 1v1 means the AD carry, you don't have your items yet, what can we do with this? And then even later on, he got so far ahead that he could tank up so much damage and walk back into the fight. The rest of his team did such a good job of cleaning up. JDG feels like when they get to these mid-game to late-game fights, because everyone understands their role within the team fight so well, they're just very good individual players. Instinctively, they're very good at playing out the broken skirmishes.
Yeah, they certainly are. Absolutely insane stuff. Coming out from 369, from Canavia, that final fight as well, literally 2v1ing lower down in the jungle. Let's look at our bracket, though, as we round out things today. And again, I still can't believe that today is already over. 3-0 in favor of JDG. Absolute decimation today, and a phenomenal performance for them. They get the easiest run along the bracket possible. A win in Game 7, a win in Game 10, and now straight into the finals. EDG, a bit of a tougher route ahead of them as they have to now face BLG.
Yep.
Should be a matchup in a couple of days' time to see who will meet JDG in the finals.
The fact that we're talking about BLG being a tougher route, it's such a strong team. It's so great for me as well to see this team step up, because EDG, you know, the tagline we had for the series today was the super team of JDG versus the team that has become super in EDG. Well, they've kind of gone from superhero to zero in this one, and now they're up against BLG, like the power of friendship or something. They've found some real anime storylines to get everything together in this playoffs bracket, and that series will be really interesting to see how both teams walk away from quite disappointing defeats against JDG to face off against each other.
Yeah, I mean, I will just say, you've got Yagao on BLG as well. I want him in finals against JDG. That would be something else. That's going to be it from us. I've been Munch with Nymera, bringing you the games. And again, it's only 20-1, but our stream is over. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you in 2 days for our lower bracket final. But until then, we'll see you in